Hello, it's Chris here, and today is actually on Monday, April 20th, 2026. And, well, today is probably a very special day, but it's probably a not unusual day for us. And, of course, we're going to do something a little bit of a subject for today to do another commentary video, what was going on earlier today. And what we have heard the news, where we talk about, we're announcing that, well, just before we get into any further than that, Hasbro Legends, for those of you who have seen the hub for a very long time, yep, they got a new channel called Hasbro Legends. They got all these shows that was based on Hasbro properties, I checked the Hasbro Legends channel on Plex, yes, and they have G.I. Joe and Gem. Yep, the shows I used to watch on WPIX TV, Channel 11, back in the 80s. Man, they just brought it back to bringing back some memories. A very nostalgia trip. Yeah, back when it used to be on the hub, they used to air G.I. Joe and Gem, probably on that same channel, long after WPIX aired it back in the 80s. So, that was a great one. I highly recommend. They announced that was a few days ago. They recently came out. They announced that Hasbro is launching a new over-the-air channel. We'll get to that one. And yeah, they have a lot of these cartoons based on their intellectual properties, but based on Hasbro. Yeah, there's a lot of these good stuff. And yes, Hasbro has all the other great classic shows from the 80s. You all remember Transformers and G.I. Joe and some of the other Hasbro content that we know and love from back in the like the 80s. I mean, yeah, Ed did a pretty good job with this one, but well, we'll have to talk about that in the future in another video. So, well, we'll have to get to this one. Well, here's what we explained. This happened earlier last week. We've been talking about this, so let's get to it here. All right. Those of you who have followed my channel, way back in the day, for the last 20 years, I've been on this channel for 20 years. We've been doing some little bit of change because, like I said earlier in the update video in the previous one, last time I got, I just watched the Jack and the Beanstalk Comicolor cartoon from 1933. I just captured the video from that. It was from a projector that I just actually bought off eBay last time. It was actually very good. It's like a much better version of the original Comicolor cartoon from the 30s. It was all in black and white. Yeah, black and white was actually, they just converted it into black and white cartoon. It was originally a color short. They just turned into, let's convert it into black and white to make it black and white, to make it look like when it was done in black, like it was originally done in color. Castle Films reissued it as in a black and white form, but it was lacking the color. But yes, I think, when it was made in color, they had to convert them and made a conversion into a black and white version and made it with sound. Yeah, it's the same. It has a much better print of the film, but it looks pretty good. It has no splice at all, but it's really good. So you have to check it out, this film. It's cartoon. It's much better than those other cartoons that you see on YouTube. Because a lot of these stuff on the same cartoons that are on YouTube has retained the original title cards, but this print had the Castle Films reissue titles because it has a black and white variant of the Castle Films opening and closing titles with the copyright 1945 in there, since the short was reissued in 1945. Originally came out in 1933 as the first Comicolor cartoon. This was the first of many Comicolor cartoons that was created by Iwerks. And yes, that's when, because long before Castle Films acquired became the distribution of all the Comicolor shorts for distribution for home movie use. You've seen these on most public domain tapes that have Castle Films. Yeah, I always see these all the time. Yep, you might see a Castle Films logo spotted on the public domain VHS tapes over the years. And you might see those on most commonly other made Christmas cartoon tapes that was been used. But that was a way back when, and that's because of those prints that was mostly dupes. But anyways, enough with the story here. And of course, I watched the first time. I always spliced it, put together, made it into a film. And yeah, I've added some film onto a reel, so we don't need another. You have to save the end. What am I going to do with the empty reel? Well, save that for another one, but hopefully that we'll use for decoration or whatever it is. Well, at any rate, yeah, and then you got the complete full cartoon, like 5 shorts, 5 Comicolor cartoons, maybe 6 of them, roll into one larger reel. So you can watch like 40 minutes of all the cartoons, of all the animated shorts, the theatrical ones that you see on that one, because that's a great collection of Castle Films acquired Comicolor cartoons in black and white. That's all you can tell. That's a very nice one. So I like it better than the original colors, to say the least. Well, enough with that. Enough said. Let's get out of the way, and we're going to move to another subject when we talk about in this commentary video. All right, let's take a look at what happened over the last week or so. Yes, if for those of you who grew up in collecting VHS tapes, DVDs, and Blu-rays, and all this stuff, you've seen all the videos. I've covered for years. I've been a VHS collector, DVD collector, and all this stuff for many, many years. I have been collecting for the last 35 years. I've been collecting tapes for such a long time. I usually record off television and all this stuff, but I've been buying VHS tapes since the 90s, and when I bought those, especially blanks, I actually bought this back in the day. I remember that time would happen. So that never happened again until recently, about the last week or so. Disney laid off 1,000 people, including the home video division. Well, that was very, very sad. I'm going to show you what this thing looks like. Wait a second. All right, I apologize here. It's from the Screen Rant article that after almost 40 years, like 45 years, I believe, it's officially the end of an era for Disney. And it was announced that Disney is one of the largest brands in entertainment, but this past week the company got smaller in the worst way as transitions power to a new CEO named Josh D'Amaro, where he took over for Bob Iger, which was my favorite CEO of all time. That he got gone the second time. I call it Josh D'Amario or Josh D'Amario. I would just say the company made an unsettling move to cut more than 1,000 jobs across the vast portfolio, from publishing to publicity and beyond. Disney's massive layoff touched about every sector across its control, but one of the targeted is bringing the brands to the most powerful era to an end. According to the devastation reports, Disney has essentially eradicated its team. My friends, I can't pronounce the name. Its team that managed home entertainment. The crew, which oversaw the release and distribution of physical media, was cut in its entirety. Disney has not responded specifically to the team dismantling the ire of fans. The only reasoning giving its cuts for its Disney desire to streamline operations with its home entertainment team ousted. Netizens are left to wonder if Disney's future operations even include home entertainment. Given the fast-moving pace of the industry, D'Amario shares the Disney employees in a meme regarding the layoffs, teasing the new CEO's focus for the future. Be a deadline this requires to constantly access how foster more agile, the technologically enabled workforce to meet tomorrow's needs. The statement itself is innocent enough, but fans have a quick question. Disney shifts technologically enabled priorities. Streaming and AI remains the top focus in the field. I know people didn't care about AI, for those of you who don't know, in the field, leaving physical media like Blu-rays and DVDs in the past, just like what we did with VHS, Betamax, and Laserdisc. Well, that was in the past too. And so does 8mm, 60mm, and Super 8, which was actually which was one of the earliest forms of physical media. We call it as film. We go back to the days of film. You remember the 8mm, the 16mm, and the Super 8s? I have them in my collection because it's got all the stuff in here. But yes, I have a vast variety of 8mm film, 16mm, and Super 8 featuring cartoons. I have all the cartoons on Super 8 and some other stuff. That's what we call the earliest form of physical media. Yeah, remember that time when you bought those stuff from the companies? I remember Castle Films, was one of the home movie distributors, and that was what they call physical media format. Yeah, you can watch Castle Films like some other stuff. That was, yeah, it's been, if you want to see something stuff, that's on YouTube, but it's in my collection though. Yeah, I've been watching cartoons for many years now, running on my projector. And of course, yeah, you can see I captured it from a projector and then I shared it onto YouTube. So I think it's a very good idea. But there you go. I actually want to say this. If DeMario wants a future-proof Disney, it is hardly a surprise its home entertainment era is ending, no matter how disappointed fans are. What's going to happen to what the physical releases? Well, it is unclear that Disney's physical media releases will operate now, and its in-house team is gone. It must be noted that fans are spent the past decade asking for faster Blu-ray releases from the company, following the advent of Disney Plus and home entertainment releases slowed to a crawl as Disney prioritized streaming access for releases new or old. However, the fault doesn't lie entirely with Disney. Many netizens did not realize that Disney handled its own physical media operations to Sony some years ago in early 2024. We had Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. Remember back when it was originally called Columbia Pictures Home Entertainment back in 1979? Then later RCA, Columbia Pictures Home Video in the 80s, probably like late 1982 until 1991. And then later Columbia TriStar Home Video from 1992 through 2003, which later evolved into Sony Pictures Home Entertainment now. In early 2024, the two companies entered a licensing, manufacturing, distribution, and sales. Sony took responsibility for many Disney releases in the US and Canada, but in terms of creative control, Disney's in-house team ultimately selected what titles were available for Sony to work on. Currently, reports have not said whether Disney's deal with Sony impacted by all these new layoffs, if the operation is untouched. There's a little doubt as to why Disney targeted its home entertainment team. With its Sony deal in place, Disney's in-house team is ultimately seen as a redundant, giving way to this destruction. And yeah, and same goes with Marvel. Yeah, I'm not going to explain about Marvel at the moment, but yeah, I like the Marvel stuff anyway. Yeah, too bad they laid off a companies here, but yeah, it says RIP. But listen, physical media is not dead. It's not going anywhere. You could get stuff on eBay. You could get, if you know what that is. You could just go on eBay and get any physical copy you want. You get either VHS, Betamax, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-rays. You could get a variety of things. You could buy those. You can go on eBay and get all these this stuff. But at any rate, there you go. All right, these are the VHS tapes. These are some of the stuff I have here, and especially one of these I don't have. But I have all the Disney VHS tapes in my brother's garage. It's pretty further away. If you want to do, I have to go down to my archives and see if I have any of the tapes. To see if I can go through my archive videos that I would like to share with you one day. I will do one video that I want to explain. This one, we're going to go back to my archives and see if I have any videos, some of the old videos from back in the days of my old channel. So, yes, I know my channel, I've been on YouTube for 20 years. I know it's 20-year anniversary because I'm going to be starting a live stream soon in the future. It will be on StreamYard. So, we're going to be talking about this thing. Yeah, these are the Disney VHS tapes. Those are very nostalgia. These goes back to a lot of years. The Masterpiece Collection. Yeah, we're going to go back to the days of the VHS era. The Disney VHS era who we know and love from the 80s and 90s. Remember the Masterpiece Collection? Wow, those were going back in time. I have most of these tapes in my collection. So those are back when, before DVDs. Yeah, there were VHSs. Those are very popular. There was come a time when these stuff, it came out on VHS. Some of the Disney titles, a lot of these were classics. They're bona fide hits. They're just, a lot of these were big hits. Most of them were failures. Yes, I know Disney did failures back in the day, but even today, compared to the past of all the Disney films that were failed, bomb at the box office, like Alice in Wonderland and Pinocchio and a few other films that were kind of misfired, but compared to today, Wish and Snow White, the live action remake, which was a bummer. And look at this. Snow White, the classic from 1937, way better than the 2025 live action remake with Rachel Zegler. That was a dumb idea, and they made this movie. A live action remake was the most controversial film. And there's a lot of these stuff there. Yeah, Little Mermaid. I think the live action remake was fine with Halle Berry in there, but those were absolutely very good place to start with. These are, what about these? Well, do I get rid of them? Nope. I am still keeping them. I'm still hanging on with these VHS tapes for years. Yeah, these are the VHS. These are pictures. I'm going to show you these things because most of these stuff, I did not include the Masterpiece VHS of Little Mermaid and Bambi. These I never had one, but these are going to the Black Diamond Classics. I also have the Black Diamond Classics version of this. So I always want to say, these are all the entire collection of Disney VHS lineups of all the entire Masterpiece line. And these are going back to the days of the Black Diamond Classics line. Wow, those were actually very amazing. We go back to the 80s and the 80s and early 90s. That's where they put out a lot of these Black Diamond Classics line. And these actually came out very well at the time of its run. But look, these are so many great titles released on VHS. Man, going back in the days when I remember watching this, when you first if you first put in a tape in your VCR, the FBI warnings, the bumpers, like the coming soon to own on video cassette bumper, the feature presentation bumper, those little trailers appeared. Those brings back a lot of memories. I remember watching this when you first pop in on the tape. That was a very interesting thing that we go back in time. Man, we're going to go back in time to this one because these VHS tapes were very great because these are collector's piece. I mean, we kind of go revisit again and we'll go back to old school. Well, those were great stuff. I mean, we missed actually, I know fans who loved to collect over the years, we've been treasured forever, because what happened was at the time, last time, like I said, Disney laid off 1,000 people, employees out of work because they shut down the home video division. And you know what? It brings back some memories. We know we're going to go back and relive a memory once again. So I'm very nostalgia for this thing. I can't believe this is a very good idea for this. So at any rate, let's get to that one here because Yesterworld Entertainment did a video back in 2020 on the history of Walt Disney Home Video and the infamous Disney Vault. So this is going to be a commentary video for me, and I'm going to show you what this thing. It's a legacy. It's back a 45-year history of Walt Disney Home Video, and a look back at the history of home Disney and home video titles. And some other pieces of media. We know a lot of these people remember back in the days of home video collecting, back in the era of Disney VHS collecting. Yeah, this goes back some time. I mean, what a great nostalgia trip has been for a long time. It's very, very well done. I think it did a pretty good. Yesterworld Entertainment did a great job on what they're looking back at the history of home video. So let's take a look at this, and I'll give you a commentary. We got thanks to this channel. If you want to see a video, I would recommend to check out his channel. The link is in the description below. So let's take a look at the history of Walt Disney Home Video and the infamous Disney Vault. So I'll give you a little reaction to this thing, so let's take a look right now. So here it is.
When it comes to Disney's classic animated films, today there's no shortage of ways to view them, whether it's on Disney+, Blu-ray, iTunes, and the like. So it's hard to imagine
Or Prime
there was
Video.
once a time when owning your favorite Disney films was a vision of the future, and even when it did become a reality, was only the beginning of years upon years of convoluted marketing tactics, trickery, and maddening sales gimmicks. So let's explore the history and evolution of Walt Disney Home Video and the origins of the infamous Disney Vault on this episode of Yesterworld.
Oh yes, the infamous Disney Vault. Man, we're gonna go back 45 years ago. And we go back to the very beginning of home video formats. We started to appear. Yeah, that's where we're talking. The history of Walt Disney Home Video and the infamous Disney Vault.
The Disney Classics, the ultimate treasury of Disney magic.
The story begins in the 1980s.
Oh, ad!
The story begins in the 1980s. But for a little more context leading up to these events, we actually have to go a little further back in time to the 1940s. You see, Walt Disney Studios, like most of the country, was unable to escape the harsh realities of World War II. In their case, it was changing their priorities from animated feature films to wartime training films, educational shorts, and moral-boosting propaganda. But understandably,
it's wartime
this was far
films.
from profitable, so Walt Disney and his brother Roy decided to re-release Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in the theaters.
Oh yes, that's because back in the 40s, back then there was no television. TV did not come out into the 50s. Well, until, in 1939, when television was first introduced announced at the New York World's Fair in 1939. Okay, that was under, David Sarnoff and the company introduced that from RCA when they introduced television, one of the earliest form of TV. Yeah, back then there was no television, no VCR. You had a projector, like we have here. Here's the projector right there. Those are, it's easy to use, convenient to thread and all this stuff when you can watch films at home. Or back in the 40s, you got 16 millimeter and 8 millimeter film. Man, what a time trip has been. So anyway, let's continue on.
For a little financial support in the...
Yeah, I'm talking about Snow White, the animated re-release of the film in 1940s. Yes, the movie got its re-release in the 40s when, you want to go see the movie in the theater again. You got to go see the movie like they did. They run old cartoons back in when they were shown in theaters. You watch Bugs Bunny and Popeye and the Mickey Mouse cartoon shorts there. Yeah, you got to go see what the heck is going on. You go see a movie. That was on as kids' shows. They're watching the old serials from Buck Rogers, those Western serials that we all remember. That you remember the old Hopalong Cassidy or some sort of thing. That was showing a lot of these great Westerns. Those are good ones. Those Western serials or whatever you call it.
1944.
Snow White and the
1944.
is more than a great picture.
I thought this movie was better than Rachel Zegler's god-awful
The
remake.
re-release or reissue was an incredible success, and thus began the Disney tradition of re-releasing a feature-length animated film every 5 to 10 years after its initial debut.
Oh yeah, if you look at these reissues of how many times when these Disney movies were re-released at the time, the first movie I went to see was back in 1978 when after they showed the animated the featurette called The Small One. Yeah, that was the first movie I ever seen was Pinocchio, and way back in I was a little baby back then. That's right.
Though it is worth mentioning that some received fewer releases based on lower box office performance. Every time a film left theaters, it was referred to as having gone into the Disney Vault and would only be taken out of the vault for another theatrical re-release. even as the years went by and television came into the picture.
Yeah, TV just came into this picture. That goes back to the when TV was starting to become popular in the 50s. You know, TV sitcoms we know popular as it were back then. All right. You know, television has become very popular in the 50s. Like, remember I Love Lucy and The Honeymooners, Mighty Mouse. Yeah, we grew up watching the show. Back in the 50s, you tune into the Mickey Mouse Club, and then Mighty Mouse, and then Rocky and Bullwinkle, and Tennessee Tuxedo, Underdog. Those are lists of watching cartoons on Saturday mornings that we become more very, very popular as time goes on. And yes, that was because when time goes on, that will be a popular show on Saturday morning TV. And that goes back in the 50s and 60s where it become more a vast variety of programs. You know, Mike Wallace, the Mike Wallace interview. They do late nights, and they had the Tonight Show with Steve Allen. They used to have like some of the great shows I used to watch back in the day, back in the 50s and 60s. They grew up on watching Our Miss Brooks, the television version. You know, radio was actually a very vast medium. Back in the 40s, it was radio. There was no television back in the 40s. You got radio. You tune into The Lone Ranger, The Green Hornet, Jack Benny, Fibber McGee and Molly, and The Shadow, The Lone Ranger, The Green Hornet, or so on and so forth. And that was when radio was big back in the 40s. You know, Suspense and Johnny Dollar, or some Gunsmoke, the radio version before it became television. First was a radio show, then later a TV show. Was one of the longest running shows on CBS from like 1961 right up until the 1970s. It became TV's longest runs. I mean, yeah, that was actually Gunsmoke with James Arnaz as Matt Dillon. Well, so yeah, but when the radio show started William Conrad, but in the TV version it was James Arnaz as Matt Dillon. I mean, so that was a good one. Dragnet. Oh, that's a great one. Dragnet with Jack Webb. First was a radio show, then went to television. Oh yeah, that was a great show. So enough said. Let's move on.
Disney's animated feature films were very unique in that they were never, ever seen outside of theaters. This was in stark contrast to other studios who took full advantage of television's rise in popularity, as while there wasn't a way to own films at this point, movies finally had a life outside of theaters. But that was only the beginning.
Hello, I am Cartravision.
Wait, Cartravision? Okay, let's go back a little bit further with this because, yeah, all these stuff when Disney came out in the 60s, in the 1950s, they introduced Disneyland, the TV show. If you may remember Disneyland, the show. It was an hour-long series that ran on ABC from 1954 to 58 when it became Walt Disney Presents from like 1958 to 61. I mean, around 1961. Then when it moved to NBC, it became Wonderful World of Color from 61 through 69, and then later became The Wonderful World of Disney from like 69 to 79. And then finally Disney's Wonderful World from 1979 to 81. And then Walt Disney, when they moved to CBS, became Walt Disney from 1981 to 83. Right before the Disney Channel first came on the air. Yeah, the series Walt Disney pulled the plug, ending a long run after a series of Sunday night shows. The show was on Sunday nights, while Ed Sullivan was on Sundays when the Beatles first came in. There you go. It was right along outside of the network. CBS was running Ed Sullivan, Disney show. NBC's Wonderful World of Color was on NBC. Ed Sullivan was on CBS. Well, while they were running Wonderful World of Color was running during the second half of Ed Sullivan, because the Beatles was introduced. Back in 1964, the Beatles was introduced on Ed Sullivan. Made its TV appearance on Ed Sullivan. Well, doing the song "All My Lovin'" when they performed on Ed Sullivan for the first time on TV as a musical guest. Well, back to this. We're talking about Cartravision. Back in the days, before Cartravision, Sony had an obsolete format. Remember this one? If you don't, those of you who don't know, before home video first came in, there was the Ampex. You remember the Ampex VR 7500? And that goes back like probably around the 60s, around 67, 68, 69, I believe. It was the first form of home video, but it wasn't even. It's a professional video machine. It's where you can record, and it's just like it was taken off of broadcast equipment. It's like one of those big, huge video recorders it's a reel-to-reel type A video recorder, which Rick Thomas from Obsolete Video Service did a video on the VR 7500 and all the equipment that is used for this and the video quality. That was one of the original format that was made by Ampex. That's when they started producing like some sort of a video machine that was used for schools, or it was used for the institution. It was made for not for a home use. It was basically made for all the use that was used for homes. But I don't think that this is like a professional machine to begin with, and that was not like the way they did. Remember, Sony had a video machine. This was one of the first of early home video recorders before VHS. The Betamax was even there at the moment, but back in the 60s, they call it the CV2000. It was one of those early VC type of reel-to-reel VCRs. It was a skip field unit. It was all black and white. Well, that's good. This lacked color. Well, they didn't include color in there. It was all black and it's an only black and white only model that was actually record shows off television or something. And that goes, you can record a movie. You have to tap two separate reels. If you run out of it, you had to pay another reel to continue with part 2 of a movie. You had to record. You can sit there and record a movie on there, and you can record a TV show, whatever you like, but you can connect it to your television, and then you can record what you want or where you wanted. But this is like going a long way. You have a consumer machine. You have it at home. Yeah, if you want to watch a Disney TV show on Sunday night, you can record it on this machine. You could have like commercials on here. Yep, it's got to have some old commercials on them that remember back in the old days of television when it first came on, or there's like a network bumper or whatever it is. You go back in the old days. Well, this was like going back to the old days of Disney TV shows. On Sunday nights, people record The Wonderful World of Color, Wonderful World of Disney on a skip field machine. That's what, for those of you who have not, these were considered lost media. There were some like original ads that appeared on television on Disney's TV program. Those who collected on these skip field machines, these are just very common. So I don't know. Anyways, well, this next one is actually the other one. Another one of these home video machines is the AV3600 from the late 60s, early 70s. You can record a Disney show on an EIAJ machine. That's I don't have anything common to these things because it supports reel-to-reel videotapes. It has a width of the size of a It has the same width as a VHS tape. You can see these reel-to-reel videotapes has the same width as a VHS tape, but it runs on like 7.5 inches per second. I think it's at a single speed. There is no changing in speeds on the reel-to-reel machine. There is a lack of speed. There is no SP, LP, or EP. But the only thing, it's only a single speed. It runs about 30 minutes or 60 minutes long. And that was depending on the length of the video that you have to watch. But it's one of those home machines. You can watch it at home, or you can play it, record at home. This was used for everything, educational videos or anything you can do when you can record stuff off television. And these are recorded on the AV3600, but Obsolete Video Service did a video on that with Rick Thomas, the guy who talks about the video formats like the AV3600 and how he restored it, how he did a video, how he repaired it, and did a video on that, demonstrating it. And yeah, if you want to see his video, go check it out. So, yeah, those were very early in the game, but there were no home video releases on EAJ or Skipfield. There is no home video rental stores. You can't, back then, these reel-to-reel videotapes were very popular, and it was recordable. There was no video rental stores you can record that you could get movies on a EIAJ machine. There was no video rental stores. There was no video stores back in the 60s and 70s. There was nothing. You don't get it back in the day. There was no rent. There was no place to rent. You can use an actual machine. That's the reel-to-reels we all remember. And then came the Sony VO2600. This is the U-matic tape. This was actually one of the first of the home consumer U-matic VCR, and that was actually the first VCR that came in existence. It was actually the VO2600 that came out in the 70s. And I think it's one of the first ones. I think it was become more popular in the home, but that was why the U-matics, these are, you can record stuff for only an hour. And there it is. And this is actually the U-matic video cassette, which is actually runs about 60 minutes. It runs an hour. Yep. There is no 2-hour tape in there. It looks like it was Women at Work, filmed only LAAA version, 1982. It looks like it was recorded in 1982. It looks like it was used for broadcast equipment. And this is actually the U-matic video cassette. It was also used for broadcast equipment. And there is none of these are Disney shows. You have to record on a U-matic tape like this. In this 60-minute U-matic video cassette, you can record stuff off the air, like these U-matic tapes can be found on this. You can record a Disney show on a U-matic tape. There's even a Disney World U-matic video cassette. That's kind of an oddball to find. That was actually Epcot overall from May 18th, 1983. I believe that this is actually one of those U-matic tapes that runs about 10 minutes long, but it's not going to be close to a 30-minute or a 60-minute tape. That's like an oddball from. So anyways, let's get back to that.
I offer you and your family immediate access to TV programs. Your choice of feature-length films, educational and cultural materials, and your own home movies.
Technically, the first attempt at home video entertainment was in 1972 with the first consumer-grade VCR, or video cassette recorder.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned before. It was actually a Cartravision. Remember the cartridge television system? It was made by Teledyne Packard Bell, and it was a failure. It was back in 1972 with Avco. The company that produced what they call Avco, or Avco Embassy Pictures, whatever you call it, or Avco Records, was known for the Stylistics. And yeah, that's right, the Stylistics was on that label too. They had to put out a Cartravision system that was actually an ill-fated format that plays like an 8-track tape.
Called Cartravision. For the first time ever, you could rent a feature-length film from a wide range of titles and view them from home.
Yeah, this was back when, there was no streaming services. There was no Netflix, no Disney Plus, no HBO Max, no Paramount Plus, nothing. So, and let's not forget Peacock, no Peacock at all. No Tubi, no Amazon Prime Video, no Pluto TV. There was no streaming services back then. Well, you could go rent it at you have to get stuff for rental use. That may be a certain store, like a video store. You had to get copies of all these titles that was for rental use. You can rent or you can return it to a store, or you could buy a full movie. If you change your mind, you can buy a movie that you get at the store.
But Disney was one of the only studios who refused to allow any of their movies to be featured in this early vision for home video. The primary reason was the CartridgeVision's other ability, recording television programs onto tape, as Disney was strongly against what they saw as a gateway into piracy.
You see, I can bring you whatever you want to see, whenever you want to see it.
Yeah, they had to try to go against with piracy. You know, back in the days of piracy, you have to record a dub stuff from a television program, or you could dub or a copy to another copy. That's what you call these days piracy. You know, piracy, yeah, it's where you can record, you have to make a copy from another, you know, like a VCR to another VCR, and you know it's illegal to sell it, and you know you get into trouble, you get into jail for like that. That was in the past, you know. You cannot copy to another stuff. That's just what we call these days pirating. Well, that's like a crime, you know. Remember those in the days. You have to be careful. If you don't, you have to get yourself in trouble. You'll get yourself jailed. You get yourself arrested, or you get sent to jail thing. But anyways.
Fortunately, the CartridgeVision's film rentals could only be ordered from a catalog and watched a single time without the ability to even rewind.
Yeah, that's right. Video rental place, you have to get it from the catalog, and you can get this through the store, or not, rather than going to a video store and rent a movie like that. Though that was back when they had magazines. You have to rent movies from a magazine, from a rental program library, and you have to send it back to the mail or whatever it is. Man, that was in there, but I wasn't even born yet.
While the plan was to release a standalone version the next year, the initial device only came pre-packaged with the TV and saw terrible sales, so within a single year, the entire device was abandoned. However,
yeah, CartridgeVision was a guilty pleasure, but not until when RCA, took over when they introduced the CED video disc player, which was another abominable failure. That will happen in later on. So, on to that format we remember, Betamax.
The home video entertainment revolution was near and truly began in the mid-70s with the Betamax and VHS.
Some of the best movies on television aren't on television because now you can buy full-length uncut movies on cassettes.
Oh yes, I believe so. Yes, Sony introduced the Betamax in 1975. The one I do have here is this. Let me get this thing closely here. I can't see in the camera here. Oh yeah, the light, I knew. So, this is my Sony Super Beta Hi-Fi Betamax VCR from 1986. It's a model SLHF 750. It's an SLHF 450. Still works. I have not been using this in a while. This is actually, it still works. I bought this off eBay 2 years ago. It still works, but it plays perfectly. Excellent. But I like to see if I haven't got any Betamax tapes in a while. This is actually called Super Beta Hi-Fi. And yes, it's got the Beta Hi-Fi light on. If you turn it on the VCR, the Beta Hi-Fi light is on. It's got all the features in here, but there you go. That was one of those Betamax VCRs I have. So, yes, Betamax introduced in 1975 by Sony, but then JVC introduced the following year to what we know as the iconic VHS format. And then, yes, VHS was become more popular than Betamax did. So, I think that was when Betamax was trying to win the battle. But yes, because Betamax was smaller, VHS was larger. But anyways, this is how you compare it to that. So, yeah, I know people love VHSs than Betamax did. Remember the VR 7000? Yeah, right. This is actually, it's not the VR 7000, it's a VR 1000. This was done by Quasar back in 1976. Yeah, the VR 1000, it was what they called the time machine. It runs 2 hours on videotape cartridge. Yeah, this is all. I know I've seen a video of that on one of their YouTube channels. They actually did a video of the working VR 1000. Yeah, it was a failure. That they tried to it was made by what they developed by Panasonic. We know as National or Panasonic. We know as what we called the videotape format, which I think it was had never caught on. And look, you could tell. Look at the tape cartridge. We know this. Look, this is actually a tape. The VR 1000 tape cartridge was huge. Yeah, it's very, very bulky. Yeah, it looks like it came in an original box that says, you see, Quasar video cassette. Yes, you know that it's VC 120. It's made by Quasar. It's a video cassette. It's a 120-minute cassette. Yeah, as you can see, the larger tape cartridge is just it was too big. It was a big failure it was doomed back in 1976 and to 77. Yeah, it was actually a flop. But yeah, Quasar made this thing a VR for the VR 1000. It was a flop. I cannot believe they made it. Compared to the Cartravision. Yeah, but this is because the Cartravision was a terrible idea. There were no video rental place to have a VC 120 tape. That does not look right because, it was a flop because, people record off television. It was recorded on a videotape cartridge that looked like an 8-track tape. It's just, was actually a terrible idea. It's a bad concept. It was a failed concept of the time. When Quasar put out this thing for the VR 1000, it was just bad. So, fast forward to 1977, or 76, I believe, when JVC introduced the VHS format. It started a revolutionary thing because the VR 1000 was a failure. Why are we going to change its mind? We're going to go with VHS. Well, for the U.S. market, that is.
He's like, Pat and Hello Dolly, lots more. With Select Division, you can go to the movie.
Spruce weed killers.
Oh, no. The ad. Okay, the dreaded ad. Okay, before we get to this further here. Yes, there were no Disney titles on VR, on a VC 120 tape. There might be no Disney home video releases on the format, which that Quasar did. That's terrible. I don't know how they made it failed. There were no Disney titles on a VR 1000 videotape. Yeah, it's a video cartridge, I believe. It's not really simple. All right, I know. I was trying to go into any further than this because this ad is annoying. Yeah, this video got interrupted with ads. These ads sucked. So let's continue on. Yeah, there's a skip feature right here, so I have to start over and then continue on. All right.
At your house.
While initially the Betamax and VHS devices were pretty darn expensive, especially when adjusting for inflation.
Yeah, if you adjust for inflation, back in 1977, it was like $1,350. That was way back in 1977 dollars, and this was also from 2019 or more. They could be costs like $5,773.22, and then of course in 1977, the VHS VCR costs $995, but in 2019's money, it would be $4,255.07. Well, this goes back a long way. The original price was the SL 7200 deck was cost about $1,350. But yeah, the the Panasonic VCR cost like about $1,000, like nearly $1,000, which was half the price than the Betamax. Wow, that's creative.
They were incredibly successful and changed home media forever. Virtually every movie studio was quick to hop on board, releasing both new titles and older films, except for Disney. You see, much like Cartravision, one of the major selling points of Betamax and VHS was the ability to record television broadcasts. This ranged from TV shows to sporting events and, of course, movies, all of which, as predicted by Disney, led to a massive tidal wave of bootleg videos and piracy.
Yeah, I know. There's actually, that went into the problem with this because of piracy. You know, we mentioned before about piracy, and we talked about the piracy thing and the whole thing we've been talking about for a long time. Yeah, we know earlier in the video we've been talking about the piracy, the movies. You had to record off television. That caused a little bit of a thing. You know, you had back in the day when the movie comes on television or on cable, you have to do is tape the movie, record the movie, watch it later, and then, you know, if you don't know why you want to get this thing distributed, but it was not to become copyrighted. But that was back when the piracy system was taking place. That's right, FBI. Yeah, that was talk about. Yeah, was they warned you that these are piracy, illegal copies of some of their movies. I know we're talking about 60 Minutes here, so in an interview where we talk about the segment on the 60 Minutes, talk about video piracy. It's not like the way they used to be. So that's just it was like record off a cable television, like recording off HBO. When you know it's like recording a movie off HBO, that would get into some sort of piracy thing. So that was a pirate, but or recorded from a film. It was a film dupe, or whatever you have. Remember when you set a camera in a theater, you had to record a movie from a theater. That can cause a lot of illegal problems. That can cause into trouble. That you can put them in sent to jail. You know, that's where you get a fine, a felony, a victim. So that's all I had to tell you all about that. Man, we're going back to the days of FBI warnings when you see at the very beginning of the tapes, you know, you got to be careful. It's a crime. Back then it was a crime, but that's about to change. You know, back then streaming services was thing. I mean, how can you go wrong with that?
So Disney and Universal Studios filed a lawsuit against Sony, who invented and manufactured the Betamax, which in turn led to the VHS.
Wait, Sony and Universal sued. What is this? Disney and Universal sued Sony for doing this, but that was the problem. They did, you know, that was predicted until decades later when Sony handled the distribution to all the Disney catalog titles that you see today,
hoping to destroy the future of both devices. However, Disney was still at least interested in the concept of home entertainment, and Universal felt they had the perfect solution: DiscoVision.
Wow, I couldn't believe DiscoVision was the thing. Back in 1978, it was the first form of Laserdisc. Yes, entered the Laserdisc format. That was introduced in 1978, starting with DiscoVision by MCA.
Disney licensed 6 titles to Universal to be released on DiscoVision, many of which were segments and animated shorts from their Disneyland TV series.
Yeah, those are from like an hour-long television series they aired on ABC, NBC. Yeah, those are those were on part of the Wonderful World of Disney and Disneyland show. That was when they put out on what we called a Laserdisc format known as DiscoVision. Yes, I know. Benny Boy from Oddity Archive did a video on the DiscoVision format. If you want to go see it, check it out. Yeah, these are all the stuff that I did not include in this collection because I don't have a Laserdisc player. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't want to buy any more of this device at the possible minute because I don't have a player. I don't have a Laserdisc player. But yeah. It's because it's the same size as a record, as a vinyl record, you know. Laserdisc was actually a form of video disc. It weighs the same size as a vinyl record, but that was when it has the same it comes in an LP size. Well, it would fit on any. It would store on a vinyl record collection or something next to vinyl, but they look like a very genuine, MCA DiscoVision. That was when they licensed their titles from their catalog of some of their titles. MCA licensed all the Disney films and TV episodes on the DiscoVision under what they call the DiscoVision line. Man, this goes back to like 1970. I was born in 1978 when DiscoVision was the thing, when it first came out, the Laserdisc format.
Unfortunately, immediately upon release in 1978, DiscoVision was riddled with problems and was a commercial failure. To add further insult to injury, the next year, Disney lost the court battle against Sony to kill the Betamax and VHS.
Yeah, they killed off the Betamax and VHS, to be exact, after they won the lawsuit from Universal and Sony.
However, Disney still wanted a piece of the home video market pie, which led to a new branch of the company, Walt Disney Home Video.
Yep, this is where the story began in 1980. That's when they started putting out home video releases. This is what they're going to do. Yep, it's called Walt Disney Home Video. We're going back like 46 years ago. 1980 was the year. Man, what a great time it was been. I was like little kid back in 1980. That's when this company was started. Yeah, they're putting out a lot of Disney movies on VHS and Betamax. But whatever that is, it's like, wow, it's going back in time a little bit. That is very back. It brings back a lot of memories. And yes, I know if you're talking about this was the thing. You know what? I always enjoyed watching these VHS tapes at the time, and a lot of people remember those memories of. Yeah, you can see, the Sorcerer Mickey character. That was because the mascot they used, Walt Disney Home Video. It had a Sorcerer Mickey from Fantasia became the company's mascot. And that's a pretty nice name for the character for this was used. But it did not appear until 1986. It originally started in 1978 and into 1985. It was the Neon Mickey logo. Yeah, the one you've seen earlier in the video.
A short time later, and rather ironically, Disney released 14 live-action titles and various cartoon shorts on Betamax and VHS.
Oh yes, we've started the long way. We're gonna start the long way round because, the first wave of titles released on VHS and Betamax at the time, those were very popular. Pete's Dragon. Well, I do have a later copy on VHS. Black Hodge, I don't have it included. I might get a Betamax of it sometime. Love Bug, I also have a later one on VHS. Escape to Witch Mountain. Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. I actually do have a later copy of it. The North Avenue Regulars, The Apple Dumpling Gang. I actually do have a VHS, which is a reissue of it. Hot Lead and Cold Feet. On Vacation with Mickey and Friends, which is actually from the Disneyland show. Kids is from the Wonderful World of Color. The Adventures of Chip and Dale from the Walt Disney Presents show. Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, I do have one. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And, of course, Mary Poppins. I actually do have one. It's a classic. One of the biggest movies ever. I think it came out very well. This is pretty cool.
It's like the saying goes, I guess. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
Oh, yes. It's got the printed advertisement for Walt Disney Home Video. And you could say it says, hi ho, it's Disney Video marching home with over 30 of the most lovable titles you've ever seen. You'll find a delightful collection of Disney movies, cartoons, video cassettes at your local video store. Unforgettable films like Dumbo, Pete's Dragon, The Shaggy Dog, Pollyanna, and Alice in Wonderland. Remember the last time you gathered with your family around and shared an event and brought you closer together. Try popping some popcorn, letting the Disney movie reinforce those good family feelings all over again as it carries you to the coast of the Treasure Island or back to the blustery days of Winnie the Pooh. Share a hug with your kids as Old Yeller tugs in their heartstrings and laughs together, and nonstop ridiculous quackery of an unseparated Donald Duck. Your whole family will enjoy ousting your nearest Disney video store. Let each member select their favorite Disney film and kind of gift your family. Never forget, from the littlest child to the greatest grandparent. So hi ho, bring some Disney home video turned into evening into an event and share the fabulous Disney movie with your family tonight. The magic lives on. Walt Disney Home Video. And yes, it's this is like one of those printed advertisements that came out in one of those magazine ads from like in the early 80s, I believe.
However, noticeably missing were any of Disney's feature-length animated films.
Well, yeah, this is not really ready yet, so it's missing one of their Disney animated movies. They're not even exactly appeared on VHS and Betamax just yet. So not until the latter part of the 80s.
You see, while some Disney executives were all for selling the true Disney classics on home video, others feared this would lower their value and dissuade audiences from seeing them in theaters.
Is that
during
Mickey's
reissue
face?
periods. So in 1981, a compromise was made. Disney compiled a list of their most iconic and lucrative animated features, known as the Untouchables, that would...
Wait, was that the Untouchables? No, wait, that's like the television show with the Elliot Ness, if you may remember the Untouchables, the television show from the 60s. Even if you want to compare it to the Untouchables TV program from the 60s, this is what you're expecting to see.
Ever be released on video, and the only way to ever see them would be in theater.
Well, it says the Untouchables, and it says here, when anyone mentions the Untouchables around Disney, is not talking about reviving a TV series. Description refers to 15 reverted classics of animation, beginning with Snow White, that represent the treasure house in the Disney vault, and if the studio treats its heirlooms in the zeal of a Scrooge counting his coins, the arithmetic makes sense. The Untouchables on Frian's list are Snow White, Robin Hood, Fantasia, Pinocchio, Bambi, Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians, Cinderella, Jungle Book, The Fox and Hound, Rescuers, Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, Sword in the Stone, and the Aristocats. We're getting into under an hour here in this video because, well, let's get to that.
The ones not on the list consisted of various anthology films or anything that had already aired on Disney's television series. These included Alice in Wonderland and Dumbo.
Wait. Alice in Wonderland is going to be coming out on Blu-ray 4H and Ultra HD during the month of May. Well, get this. Yep, it is coming out earlier this year. They announced that this movie is going to be coming out. But I said, nah, no thank you. I'm not buying this. So it's already on Disney Plus, I believe. if you want to watch it, just experience watching this movie on Disney Plus. But don't even bother getting this thing when it comes out. So I have the VHS tape I have the Masterpiece Collection VHS of Alice in Wonderland, but I'm not buying that. So let's get back.
Which Walt Disney himself had chosen to air as condensed versions in the 1950s, and were released alongside the other non-Untouchables on VHS and Betamax.
Oh yes, they have an advertisement. If you want to read the ads, that says A Birthday Wish Come True, or Home Sweet Home Video. Yeah, those were like the two printed ads for the Walt Disney Home Video when it became a success. It's like we had the kids around the TV set. Happy Disney birthday to you. If you want to do is pause the video and you'll have to read the ad, because this is something you like. Oh yes, they already come out on Laserdisc, I believe. That came out following the DiscoVision format. That's because when they started putting out on Laserdisc. Once again. Okay, that's pretty interesting ad, but if you want to see it, that's good.
1980 Fight AI.
Uh-oh. There goes that ad. Yeah, I hate the ads. It's annoying. I hate ads. I can't stand ads any much because it's annoying. Oh, yeah, it's in 1981. Oh, speaking of 1981, as you probably noticed, in 1981, RCA introduced what was later called one of the worst format in history, the CED video disc. And it was an absolute flop. That's right. RCA developed a CED video disc player, and it became an absolute flop. And it caused RCA losing money. And yeah, this was the biggest failures in home video history. It came out, well, dead on arrival in 1981. It was just one of the worst format. People couldn't stand on buying it. It lost some money. It didn't do well in sales. It's when it compares to sales and not very well, not doing very good. It was a total disaster when it came out in the 80s. 81 was really bad. There were a selection of titles released on CED, and that includes Splash. There's plenty of Disney titles released on home video on CED. Alice in Wonderland was there, and that was like the cream of the crop film, but it's not really that really good on CED. There's also a handful of titles released, including these are all CED video disc, which I think it's. Look at that. This is just. It was a Disney Cartoon Parade. It has 2 episodes from that Disney Cartoon Parade. And these were all done by Selectavision's video disc. Then the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. That also went dead on a right. And then, of course, there's Dumbo from. This is just ridiculous. It's like. I think this is not one of the better ideas. It was a fail. Like I said, CED video disc was a failure. It never caught on. It didn't sell well on this because people prefer VCRs over this one because, yeah, VCRs was the big win. They're trying to do. It's not as compatible, not as competing to. It was a terrible. It's a terrible idea to put out a CED video disc. It's just one of the worst formats in history. And then came this one, the Cartoon Parade Volume 4. And of course, there's like very, very bad. I really don't compare this to these tapes. And of course, there's the Disney Cartoon Parade featuring this one. It's really, 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 really bad. It's not really good for home video releases. It's not really the best way to put out on CED video disc. It's just, what a disaster. It ran from 1981 to 1986. And that was like, yeah. This was the end of the road for that because by 1986, it was the end of the line of RCA's end of the line CED video disc was over. It's just dead. Well, after a 5-year run, it was just a way they ended its thing. It's just end of an era for what they do. Yeah, it's bad. CED is basically a really dead format. RCA abandoned the format in 1986. That put an end to the video disc player. The CED video disc player was dead. So let's move on.
Come home to all your good friends.
Oh yes, that clip is from the Walt Disney New promo. You may remember that.
Alice, Winnie the Pooh, and many more. Now available from Walt Disney Home Video.
Fast forward a few years later, in which a certain and heavily criticized individual became CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Ron Miller.
Yeah, Ron Miller was the Bob Iger we know back in the day. Yes, we know Ron Miller was the CEO when he took over following Walt's death in 1966. This is why he took over for Walt Disney. It was his son-in-law, Ron Miller, where he remained a company in the 70s into the 80s. It was just a bunch of box office flops, during the early 80s, they had what they called they put out a string of huge flops in the 80s, like including Something Wicked This Way Comes, and The Black Hole. It was one of the worst movies they ever put out. And of course, some of the movies that came out in the early 80s were just box office bomb after box office bomb. And they came out and it was just failure after failure. But even compared to even 2025, it was Snow White with Rachel Zegler was a failure. Many of the Marvel stuff was just failing. The Star Wars, I don't know, Mandalorian, Grogu, will also be coming out, and that was also a failure for Disney and Lucasfilm, whatever. Even going back to Ron Miller.
I bet you thought I was going to say Michael Eisner, didn't you?
Well,
Ron
that's
Miller's
Eisner.
innovative and forward-thinking ideas are often severely unappreciated, such as creating the Disney Channel and Touchstone Pictures.
Yes, that's under the one roof. Disney Channel came out in 1983. Touchstone came out in 84.
Essentially allowing Disney to release non-squeaky clean movies without affecting the brand. But
wait a second, he's showing Mickey's butt. He's covering... It's Mickey's face covering in her butt.
shareholders strongly disagreed with a number of his financial decisions, and many saw his rise in the company as nepotism due to his marriage to Walt Disney's daughter. But Ron Miller was the very first in the company to suggest they create a special series called Walt Disney Classics, which would feature the untouchable animated films on home video.
Yes, this is the start of what we call the Black Diamond Classics line. Yes, remember those good old days that we remember watching the old movies, like you see Pinocchio, Robin Hood, Lady and the Tramp, Sleeping Beauty. Yes, that you could see the logo is in there. I mean, it's incredible. And Sword in the Stone too, but yeah, this one brings back a lot of memories. These Black Diamond Classics collection, that kind of bringing back a lot of memories for me watching this on VHS. It's probably a lifelong dream for seeing.
The idea didn't go very far, as in 1984, after a single year as CEO, Ron Miller was essentially kicked out of the company.
Yes, he actually, ousted. Yes, that's right. Ron Miller was ousted by the company, would be replaced by CEO Michael Eisner.
His place? Michael Eisner.
Yes.
Whoa. What is now
Yeah,
going on in the studio?
he was the best CEO of all
Now,
time
believe it or not,
before Bob Iger.
That works as hard as he...
Okay. This ad is getting annoying. All right, this ad is ridiculously annoying.
It or not, while it's incredibly easy to poke fun and criticize Michael Eisner, as we'll do in my eventual series, how Michael Eisner saved and then almost completely destroyed the Magic Kingdom, he really did save and revitalize the company.
Yeah, this was the guy who saved the company. Not like ever since, he had a very good tenure at Disney as CEO from like 1984 until 2005 when Bob Iger took over for this one over Eisner. I like Bob Iger, the best CEO, than Michael Eisner, but this is a lot better. I missed him when he was a CEO of this company. I know Michael Eisner did an interview on a video that he did back in like a couple of months back, when he did a one-on-one interview talking about his days as CEO of Disney, and he's mentioning about Bob Iger and all this stuff. You can watch you can watch Michael Eisner's interview on his YouTube to explain what he talks about his years at Disney. He talks about Bob Iger and his all the stuff. That would have to go back into probably around early. That was a couple of months back.
A major factor was his determination to continue the forward-thinking and innovative path Ron Miller began, including the idea for a Walt Disney Classics line of home video releases. Perhaps due to Eisner's history at Paramount Pictures, or his undeniable charm, despite the hesitation of the more conservative board members, he was able to convince them to release a handful of the Untouchables on video.
Oh yeah, we talk about Michael Eisner. He worked at Paramount long before the Ellisons would have to do out and buy Warner. Yeah, we've been talking about that in the other videos on TF Barrymation, explaining about why Paramount buying Warner was a dumb idea, which I thought yes, when we talking about buying a company like a merger or something, it's like a corporate merger between the two companies. We'll get to that probably in a future video.
With the catch.
Introducing Walt Disney Home Video's first release in the classics line, Robin Hood. Now, a whole new generation of children and their parents can experience the splendor of this timeless classic.
Yes, I talk about that. I have the VHS of Robin Hood somewhere, but that's a pretty good one.
Right in their own home.
After a brief re-release in the theaters, the first entry into the Disney Classics collection was Robin Hood in 1984, but the second, and far more anticipated, was the all-time classic Walt Disney animated feature film, Pinocchio.
Yes. Oh, yes, I do have the VHS one. This is from 92, I have. And unfortunately, this was the first movie I ever saw in the theater when I was like a little baby back then. I was like a wee one back in like 1978, December 1978. When the other movies I saw at the time was this one. And there it is. The small one. That's the one movie I saw at the time that came out that came out in December, just since that movie. It came out in front of the movie Pinocchio. When I remember saw it in the theater, this was the first Disney movie I ever saw. It changed everything. That is Pinocchio.
Much like Robin Hood, the film was given a re-release in the theaters. Then a short time later, the once untouchable Pinocchio finally came to home video. But remember how I said there was a catch?
It's the long-awaited release on video of the crown jewel of Disney animation art, Pinocchio.
They'd probably want to watch it again and again and again.
21 times.
And you could watch it in your pajamas. I think it'd be fun to have a popcorn party and watch Pinocchio.
Oh, popcorn party. You're right.
You mean I can buy it?
Well, technically,
that was an
yes,
interview.
But Disney didn't want you to, and that was part of the catch.
I would probably rent it.
Bingo. You see...
Yeah, they rented, I don't know, back in the days, there were video stores popped up, anything in the 80s, video rental stores which just popped up anywhere throughout the area. Yeah, people are going to rent movies. Yeah, people are going to rent VHS tapes from the store. You got to finish it like the 7-day trial period. You got to return it right before this thing expired. Or if you wanted to, if you don't get it in 7 days, you got to pay a fee. That's like back in the days, you had to do a return video. So if you don't return it momentarily, after the 7-day period, you got to pay a fee. That's like, wow, it does not look like you got to pay a fee for that. Well, you have to do this for that. For this is what they're gonna do. You gotta do what they have to rent movies. That was in the past. This is like they used to do with libraries. Libraries, we used to get books. You could get it through when the date is due. You gotta return it. And if it's overdue, you gotta pay them for a fee. This goes back to the days of going to a video store or a library.
To appease the hesitant executives, the entries into the Classics collection had to be priced so high that realistically, only video stores would buy them at a staggering $79.95.
Wait, look at this. The Disney company expects to sell more 100,000 copies of Pinocchio in Betamax and VHS formats. The high price is of $80, reflecting on rental surcharge. Fried says most of the tapes will be sold to dealers who would rent them over and over to consumers. The studio marketing strategy was to release the classic animated film at the high price, since the video stores would have to buy it as a tape in demand for rental.
Or $227.64, adjusting for inflation.
Oh, that's an adjusting for inflation.
This would encourage families to simply rent the films as opposed to owning them, as many at Disney still believe that theatrical re-releases were the key to their future longevity and profitability, and owning the films would interfere with this. Despite the heavy price tag, Pinocchio and Robin Hood sold over 100,000 copies, but it was clear to executives like Michael Eisner and
that's right, 100,000 copies.
that relying almost entirely on video rentals was ignoring the countless parents who were willing to spend a bit more to own the films.
Oh, it's a cute little girl.
I guess I'd buy Pinocchio. That will last forever.
So with the help of the previous head of Paramount Pictures Home Video, who'd left the studio alongside Michael Eisner to become Disney's head of home video, he somehow convinced the board members to try a little experiment for the holiday season of 1985.
Wait.
Who'd left the studio alongside Michael
Yes, it says the effect on Disney, which Ricardo Mentres has left Paramount to take the similar position as vice president of production for Disney. It was announced Monday after an appointment of the latest corporate shuffle at the studio since Michael Eisner was named as chairman last month. Frank Wells from WB was named president at the same time. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was later became DreamWorks, before he started DreamWorks with Spielberg and Geffen, the president of motion picture television for Disney, who announced Mestres' appointment, who came from Paramount, and others who had made a move to Eisner include Bill Mechanic, and Melaine Hahn, who were appointed vice presidents before leaving Paramount, and supervised production of Beverly Hills Cop. It starred Eddie Murphy.
Eisner to become Disney's head of home video, they somehow convinced the board members to try a little experiment for the holiday season of 1985.
Wow, holiday season of 85.
Bring home the stars who grew up with you. Bring home a world where dreams come true. Bring home the best of old and new. Bring home the joy of Disney.
Bring home a Walt Disney.
Oh, that's a commercial
for $29.95.
Wait, $29.85. That was kind of they cut down. They usually cost for $79.95. Now then later they had to reduce the price to $29.95. But they had to cut down the price from the $80. That cost to $30. That was like way back when in '85. You had it at the low price. You can get Pinocchio for a low price of $30, which is going to be half the price than what you see on the. You had to have a total liquidation or something. You can get for, go buy it for $29.95. Available now. You could buy it at Toys R Us or Macy's or Woolworths. Yeah, you go back to Woolworth and get one of these. Or Nobody Beats the Wiz. Or Crazy Eddie. You remember Crazy Eddie? His prices are insane. Okay. They used to sell Disney VHS tapes at Crazy Eddie. Remember? His prices are insane. That's going back in the 80s, if I remember Crazy Eddie commercials.
Beginning in December, the prices of both Robin Hood and Pinocchio were drastically reduced by over 60% to match the other titles. This would target not video rental stores, but parents, who could finally justify buying the classic Disney animation for their kids. As part of this new strategy, Disney would make it clear that after the holidays, no more cassettes. Pinocchio will be sold after January. This is like Crazy Eddie will not be undersold. All right. Oh, yes. This is the article was saying the new prince takes a crack at I can't pronounce the name. And I know there's Eisner hit the jackpot, with the primetime series Golden Girls with Betty White and B. Arthur. Basil of Baker Street. Yeah, there was one animated feature project, Basil of Baker Street, which was renamed to The Great Mouse Detective, later became The Great Mouse Detective. Basil of Baker Street was the working title for a Disney animated movie, The Great Mouse Detective. And then, of course, there's also Eisner sold 2 Saturday morning animated cartoons, and then in February, the Disney Sunday movie will debut at 7 p.m. on ABC. The series, 2-hour, 13 one-hour made-for-television movies for kids. This is like the Sunday movie, if you may remember. Remember the Disney Sunday movie? Man, that goes back a long way. copies would be sold until its next theatrical re-release more than half a decade later, and thus began the true implementation of the infamous Disney Vault gimmick, in which a Disney classic was re-released
a
in
princess
theaters,
movie, Sleeping
then
Beauty.
made available on video for a very limited time. This
$30.
would increase urgency and exclusivity, as within a matter of months, Disney would pull them off the shelves until the next theatrical re-release 6 to 7 years.
Yes. Lady and the Tramp. I also have the Black Diamond Classics one. It costs like, back in the day, $30. With a special holiday video offer through New Year's Eve 1987 into January 1988. Hell, where Dick Clark used to say, "Leap and we're into 88." Yeah, that's right. What he said on New Year's Rockin' Eve with Dick Clark. where he went after the ball dropped, and it says when he said, "Leap and we're into 88." That's where after the ball dropped. Remember the apple drop? That's kind of, I know there's a video on YouTube to see what it is. Yeah. That's that's kind of interesting. Oh yes, Lady and the Tramp had also had a theatrical re-release in December 1986 to follow the success of An American Tail in November of '86. That's what they did. Speaking of American Tail and Lady and the Tramp, remember My Little Pony the movie? Well, that came out in 40 years ago in 1986. And unfortunately, the movie was a guilty pleasure. But it came out as a home video release by I have the original VHS release by Vestron Video at that time when it was distributed by Vestron Video. And it became a cult classic. It has a huge following. It has a cult following. It ended up becoming a cult classic, but anyways, it came out 40 years ago. It came out on VHS on October 29th, just 2 days after the New York Mets won the World Series. It was beating the Boston Red Sox in Game 7 of the World Series. And it was the celebration. The Mets had a celebration and all that. Yeah, it was a wonderful night in New York, but it was like 2 days before the film's release, a home video release of this movie. And I think I cannot forget that this movie came 2 days after the New York Mets winning the World Series was the best moment in New York City. Well, they had a big celebration. They had a celebration at the Victory Parade in City Hall. They had around the Canyon of Heroes. They had a ticker tape parade in New York City by Lower Manhattan by the Canyon of Heroes, where they did a very well celebration, and they had a special ceremony on the Mets victory. They had a ceremony at City Hall. Well, that's very well done. So now let's get back to the way it used to be.
Later.
Don't you wish you bought Pinocchio when you had the chance? Wouldn't you love to have Lady and the Tramp in your collection? Now they're gone.
Wow, they disappeared.
Time's running out for Cinderella, too. But you still have a chance to own Disney's most celebrated animated masterpiece.
The most celebrated movie,
Bambi.
a sad
Still
film.
available, but for a very limited time.
Yes, I have the VHS of Bambi, actually 1989 VHS. It came out Cinderella in 1988, and yes, Bambi is one of the saddest Disney animated movies. It's kind of sad. Yeah, the movie makes you want to feel sad that they killed the mother. Yeah, they killed the father or something. I don't know why they killed Bambi's mom. Well, it was kind of a touching moment. It's one of the saddest movies ever. The characters are very cute.
Okay, you might think I'm exaggerating, but the marketing for these Disney classics was just as genius as it was manipulative, with countless advertisements focusing on the devastation of children if parents waited too long to purchase a copy.
Uh-oh, I think we waited too long.
Wait, they waited too long.
The last one looks like it's gone.
Wait, the last one
Going
was
even
gone?
further, any new feature-length animated film, such as The Black Cauldron or The Great Mouse Detective, went straight from theaters into the Disney vault. So,
well, unfortunately, The Black Cauldron didn't come out until might be 1998, probably 1997 when it came out. Right, I believe 96, 97, I believe, when The Black Cauldron became part of the Masterpiece Collection. They did not come out on home video until 1997. The Great Mouse Detective didn't come out until sometime around 1991, I believe. Oh yes, there's that Sorcerer Mickey logo again.
if you were a fan of Disney's newest animated feature film and couldn't wait to own it,
oh
tough
yes,
luck, because it would only be released on video after another theatrical re-release.
Yes, it says coming in 5. Oh wait, that it kind of like it looks like a bumper. I'm not sure. Yes, it's got the Sorcerer Mickey logo in there.
5 to 7 years later, but then a little movie came along that would once again change the Disney home video release model forever.
Oh, come on, those stupid ads. These ads needs to stop. I hate ads. Oh, I'm tired of these ads. This is getting annoying.
It's here, the most highly acclaimed, the
Ha.
most successful.
So you do have the VHS. I think it's compared to what the live-action remake.
The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, compared to the live-action remake with Halle Berry, I enjoy the other. I enjoyed both versions, the original and live-action remakes. Yeah, this is what the movie.
In 1990,
Yes, and who cannot forget? Okay, just to take a break from The Little Mermaid, we're not going to jump about on The Little Mermaid in 1990. In 1989, here's what you expect to see on VHS. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? One of the best movies ever. I can't believe I saw it twice in the theater back in 88. I was like 9 years old at the time, and that changed everything. You cannot believe it. This is the movie that kind of changed everything. They swept 4 Oscars. And yes, this was the film that everybody loved it so much. This is one of the best movies ever. And I can believe this. It's got so many cameos in there. Yeah, from Disney to Warner. You know, they got they got some Looney Tunes characters in there, but yeah, fun movie. I love it. I know. This is what I remember watching it. Now I got it on digital. Thank goodness. I can never put it on my VCR again, so I can watch this movie instead. I would never bother to go to the Disney Plus and watch the film. I really have to say, this is the film that I always enjoy very much. And this is why I always want to go back, rewatch it again and again and again and again. This is better. This is the best movie ever to have Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the best movie. I can't believe it. Hands down.
The massive success of The Little Mermaid, Disney performed another experiment by releasing it on home video, not years later, but less than 6 months after its theatrical run.
Yeah, it came out after the 6-month theatrical run in 1989 in December. It was what they called the Disney Renaissance era. Just entered following the huge success of Roger Rabbit. Yep, entered the Disney Renaissance era. Well, yeah, they kind of fully, it was in full gear. So, but fortunately, it's not made by Roger Rabbit's not owned by Disney. It's actually under Touchstone. But yeah, I would want to go back and rewatch it again and again and again. This is absolute better film. Highly recommended. Yeah, you gotta love this movie. Go watch it. All right, The Little Mermaid came out like 6 months after the theatrical run. But yeah, around that time, just almost a year after the theatrical run in 1988. But this is one of the films I really loved enjoying, Roger Rabbit. That came out in 88. It didn't come out on video film 89 after a long-awaited run at the box office. It's because very, very well done. This is one of the best movies ever.
The results were astounding, as it became the highest-selling video in the U.S.
Oh, yes! It came out on, the top-selling movie. It was number 1 in the top video charts. This is like Billboard charts. The number 2 came Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Shredhead was an animated series from the original TMNT. There's New Kids on the Block Hanging Tough. The music videos, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, was at number 3 with Tummy Trouble as a short film. With it was kind of like the success following the huge success of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Came another one of a string of 3 animated shorts with Roger Rabbit in there. And then, of course, there's also Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came at number 7. TMNT Case of the Killer Pizzas was at number 8. Back to the Future 2. For rentals, it was for the rental charts. Back to the Future 2 was at number 9 on the rental charts. Look Who's Talking. Little Mermaid was at number 4 on the rental charts. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation was at number 6. Yeah, one of the great holiday movies ever with Chevy Chase.
And would officially end the practice of new Disney animated films going straight into the vaults after hitting theaters.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast was on VHS. I actually have that one.
Instead, they went straight from movie theaters to home video, guilting consumers to buy them before going into the vault.
Aladdin on video. It's here.
Yes, Aladdin on VHS. I have it.
But now it's time to address the elephant in the room, as the ability to finally own these classic Disney
Yes, seeing The Rescuers on VHS. Actually, I have the Black Diamond Classics line.
animations meant families could rewatch their favorite movies over and over and over, and spot some, oddities that weren't caught while in theaters. It first began with a VHS cover of The Little Mermaid, as some noticed a rather peculiar shape within the towers. However, despite popular belief, with the exception of a single grocery store temporarily removing the videos after a single complaint.
Yeah, I know. I actually do have a VHS of The Little Mermaid. It's got that controversial cover. Yeah, that wasn't even that right.
It was never officially recalled by Disney.
It has not been recalled.
Recall was simply the movie going into the Disney vault like the others, as the company saw the whole thing as a giant misperception. But then you have...
Okay, I always want to do this. We'll go back a little bit further. Yes, it says, if we want to go back, prolific image on Disney tape allege, but Mermaid's castle is clean, filmmaker said. I know if you want to read the article. Allegations that the cover of the Disney's video cassette of The Little Mermaid contains political symbol are unfortunate misperception, a little silly, Disney officials said Friday, but Michelle Couch of Mesa doesn't see it that way, and her complaints earlier this week prompted Beija's supermarket chain to pull videos from its Valley stores. Couch, the 25-year-old person who, I don't know if I can read it, a mother of 2, reiterates Friday that the castle tower on the cover of the phallic symbol, I think it's very offensive, and I don't think this is something that should be in the child's video, Couch said. Where I'm not advocating censorship if they were geared towards adults, and if it would be fine, this would be geared towards children. I think Disney should have been more responsible during the past few days. She was made that point. Executives at Disney that, as Basha's and Albertsons and supermarket chains. Basha's pulled off the video shelves Tuesday, but replaced it Thursday, a spokesperson said. Albertsons officials said they took a look at the cover and decided to take no action. Disney executives, meanwhile, said they were upset by the allegations and they insisted of their artists they did not intentionally pull a phallic symbol on the Little Mermaid, on the cover of The Little Mermaid, which is their second biggest video seller ever, just behind Bambi. It's a perception problem that is overinflated by a small number of customers, said the media. That said Tana Steele, vice president of publicity for Disney. I think it's unfortunate some people to receive it in that manner. It's an unfortunate misperception that is, in a way, rather silly. Steele said Disney has no plans to change the cover. She said Basha's is the only video store in the nation has pulled Little Mermaid from its shelves, but said she has received complaints from the dozens of other people who believe the tower is a prolific symbol or have heard the allegation. The Steele said in commotion started after two Los Angeles radio disc jockeys who thought they were being funny made jokes about the tower resembling Apollos. Couch said her husband, Mark, heard some people talking about it and on the radio station and told her about it. She looked at her copy of the video, which she had brought for her daughter in May, and decided that, yes, I don't know. I cannot read the, yes, it's just, it's abruptly ended in a newspaper article. Oh yeah, remember Twilight Sparkle's Kingdom? Looks like they represent the middle finger? Well, that's kind of looked controversial in the episode My Little Pony Friendship is Magic during the season 4 season finale called the Twilight Kingdom Part 2. It's a 2-part season finale. I'm not talking about series finale. It's a season finale, I believe. Yeah, when they transformed into Twilight Sparkle's Kingdom Castle. Yeah, it does not look. It looks like they represent the middle finger. Oh, that's strange. This is compared to the controversial cover like they did on the VHS of The Little Mermaid. I can believe so. That's a connection.
Is a giant misperception. But then you had the movie itself, as in the wedding scene. The preacher appeared to be a little too excited for the bride and groom special day, and drew many complaints over
That's
the
a wedgie.
However, one instance that did result in the video officially
Oh, wait. We can go back to the article a little bit.
And drew many complaints over the years. However...
And yes, it says Disney pulls rescuers from... I don't see anything from that. Disney pulls Little Rescuers due to nude image. Wait, they just pulled the Rescuers because of the nude image that came out. Yeah, it has on Friday, we called 3.4 million copies of the animated film The Rescuers, apparently because of the photographic images of a nude woman was inserted into the film. That's not good. Yeah, it wasn't as good. Why did they ever bother put a nude woman in their film in the Rescuers? It's just some sort of a one frame. Yeah, if you check it, it's only one frame of film. This is like when Rainbow Dash becomes a giraffe. That even lasted only one frame. Well, that's kind of odd. The image was discovered by Disney employees after a re-release this month of a cartoon which appeared in theaters in 1977, 83, and 89. That's three different years, 3 different reissues. Disney spokeswoman Claudia Peters declined to characterize the image rather than saying it was objectionable. However, sources familiar with the recall told the Associated Press that there was a photo of a woman nude torso embedded in the video. The image cannot be seen when the video is watched at a normal viewing speed. The recall is the first for Disney through the conservative religious groups claim the animated feature have included risque words and image. The company has denied the allegations in each case, calling them misperceptions. Disney recalled the video to keep our promises to families, and we could trust to rely on Disney brand to provide the finest in family entertainment, Mrs. Peters said. She would not say how much the recall would cost. The image was only 2 of cartoons, 110,000 frames. The rescuers followed the exploit of the groups of the outrageous mice who tried to rescue the little girl from the kidnappers. Offending the picture was inserted into the film after the cartoons was drawn. Mrs. Peters said the image was on copies sent to the theaters but as with the video was visible, was shown in the normal speed. The image was not on the copies of the video released in 1992 because it was made from a different print, Mrs. Peters said. The recall applies only to video purchased since January 5th. The company shipped 3.4 million. Asked if Disney knew the tampered with the film, Mrs. Peters will only say is an intentional matter. This is something that was done more than 20 years ago. She said in 1995, the Virginia-based American Life League urged the recall The Lion King, urging that one scene, rising clouds of dust spelled the word, I want your sex. The group, I'm talking about George Michael here. I'm not going to think about George Michael. I'm talking about that word. Thus, or people are still having sex. Or that song. I'm not sure. The group wanted Disney to exercise portions of Aladdin and Little Mermaid and Mermaid. The group said, and the minister becomes an aroused during a wedding ceremony, and in Aladdin, the title character purportedly mumbles a phrase urging teenagers to go remove their clothing. All right. That's all the article was saying that. Yeah, that's what the article says. All right, move along.
One instance that did result in the video officially being recalled was the blink and you'll miss it scene in The Rescuers.
Oh, I just love takeoffs.
Obviously, I won't show it here, but the second VHS release contained 2 frames of a woman who should have put up some curtains. There was also a scene in The Lion King that seemed to spell out the word sex, and Aladdin allegedly telling viewers to take off their clothes. These eventually led to a number of lawsuits against Disney that were, of course, quite...
Oh my God, look at that. That's that Mickey's head, Mickey's face on the Hitler. I know, you've seen videos of this. I don't know why they have Mickey's face image in a suit.
Quietly handled by their team of lawyers, but were serious enough to edit out of future releases and force executives to keep a closer eye on the finished product.
Hey, you're not gonna believe what I got you. Look, it's Fantasia. Between you and me, this was our only chance to get...
Oh yes, I still have Fantasia though. Had it for years now. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes, I know. This ad sucks. We're going to the next of this video here. Yeah, I know. I was really apologize because when I'm making this video, yeah, the ad just popped up out of nowhere. Man, enough with this ad. I gotta go back to this. It's Disney Vault Guilt Count number 12.
The 1990s saw even more first-time releases of Disney's past and present animated feature film canon on video, most of which, per the business model, were preceded by a...
Yes, I know the Jungle Book re-released the animated version of the Kipling's Tale. It was also the last film that Walt Disney ever produced until he passed away in 1966. And yes, the movie came out in 67. Yes, it was the last movie that Walt Disney ever did. This the last animated movie that Walt ever did. And since it was actually first time since July 1984, the anime classic Jungle Book is back in theaters. And I always want to read the article here. I can't read this, but it's about one of the films, you know. It's back in theaters and just in time for a family concerned about the slam-bang violence and a lot of the unimpressive animation of Jetsons the movie. Well, that was a failure back in 1990. If they tried to make it as an animated series and made it into a movie called Jetsons the movie that came out in 1990. And Jungle Book was originally released in 1967. It was the last cartoon made under Walt Disney, deliberately adapted from the tale of Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. Combines colorful, evaporative animation and superb voice characters telling the story of Mowgli, done human infant raised by wolves in the jungles of India. And of course, Baloo was done by Phil Harris, you know, from remember Phil Harris? He was on Jack Benny radio show. He was on shows like Mowgli's protectors against the dangers of jungles life, and a proud panther named Bagheera, and a friendly carefree bear named Baloo, one of Disney's most joyous creations. Especially was voiced by the colorful Phil Harris. You know, Phil Harris, he was in the Jack Benny show. He was in Jack Benny. He was with a band. He was a Jack Benny. Yeah, he was part of Jack Benny and his pal. And back in the 40s, he was married to Alice Faye. He had his own radio show with Alice Faye back in like 49, 50. Back in like 48, he was the one with his wife Alice Faye. You know, the radio show from the late 40s, early 50s. He was also in... he also had a song called The Thing. It came out in 1950. It was a big record back in 1950. And yeah, Phil Harris's biggest hit came out in 1950. Was a novelty record called The Thing. It was a very good novelty record that came out. If you may heard something like this. And then Mowgli's nemesis, including the sly but intrepid snake Kaa and the fun Sikh King Louis, was voiced by Louis Prima. You know, remember that song, "Just a Gigolo, Ain't Got Nobody." That was a song from the 50s. That was back in the 50s. And the power, and and remember that song, that old Black Magic with Keely Smith. That came out later on in the 50s. That's both by Louis Prima. And and the powerful dominion tiger Shere Khan. The Jungle Book came along at the time when economics forced Disney to cultural some of the more detailed background animation that marked Snow White and Pinocchio, yet the film still have a strong visual appeal, including the rich jungle, foliage, and shimmering waterfalls. More importantly, than Disney artists succeed in projecting appropriate human characteristics on the array of exotic animals. For once, however, animation took back seat in the voices of Phil Harris's Baloo, Sebastian Cabot's Bagheera, Sterling Holloway's Kaa, and George Sanders' Shere Khan, and are memorable examples of using the right cast and carefully controlled voice inflections to project the characterizations. Typical of Disney's produced cartoon, Jungle Book features art-entertaining collection of songs, most frequently contributors by Robert Sherman, the Sherman Brothers. The highlight, however, is the Oscar-nominated Terry Gilliam. You remember that song, All Day, All Night, Marianne? Remember that? That came out in 1957. It was a hit back in 1957. The Bare Necessities, performed by Phil Harris as Baloo as the bear. And the summer moves to July into August, and the schoolless children grows restless, and you'll find few diversions as delightful for you to them as a Disney encore. Rated G, of course.
Theatrical re-release. It also saw the end of the video format war, which declared VHS
VHS beats Betamax.
After the release of Peter Pan, Disney completely...
Yes, I believe Peter Pan was the final Black Diamond Classics VHS. The Black Diamond Classics on Betamax was marked the end of them. Peter Pan was one of the last of the Black Diamond Classics Betamax titles, but they abandoned it in 1990. Yeah, they just kind of discontinued. But was Betamax? Well, whatever happened to that? So Betamax is still running in Mexico. If they could put a lot of Latin American titles on Betamax, it continued into the 90s. When Betamax was still in Mexico in the 90s, were putting out Latin American dubs of all the Disney animated movies from Latin American dub. If you have to check out that.
Abandoned Betamax forever. But even more importantly, this period of Disney's home video revolution revealed the true brilliance, or manipulation, of the infamous Disney Vault gimmick for maximum profit, as within just a few years after release, copies of movies as recent as The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast were almost impossible to find, with previous titles even more so, and this resulted in a lot of desperate parents.
Yes, we know. I've gone to more than I count. Notice the Rochester-based manager Dolan has searched 6 months after Little Mermaid and Lady and Tramp, both released by Disney on video, then pulled from distribution. Nearly 10 million mermaids were sold, but even used copies for sale are tough to find. I was told to look at the video stores and previously viewed copies, says Dolan. I was discovered was waiting list, or they just have it, or they weren't willing to sell them out for their rental stock.
Keep in mind, auction sites like eBay and online
resellers
were still many years away from becoming the norm, so getting a hold of out-of-print copies was incredibly difficult.
Oh, yes.
To capitalize on this desperation, Disney began to re-release animated films like Pinocchio and Robin Hood on VHS. And
yes, there are a lot of great titles. I know They're just coming back from popular. Yes, the Black Diamond Classics line is trying to make Robin Hood and Pinocchio back by popular demand. So
re-release titles.
Yes, they're only backed by popular demand. Yeah, Dumbo, Alice in Wonderland, the Dumbo from these are from 81, Alice in Wonderland from 86, and then Alice in Wonderland in 1991. Those are very big encore titles because these were backed by popular demand. For when they were re-releasing some of their titles, they had to sell more.
Like Alice in Wonderland and Dumbo. This is also when any real classification or hierarchy of Disney films was thrown out the window, beginning the confusing and convoluted release patterns we all know and love.
Yeah, the Disney titles came out of the thing, Yes, that's when they're trying to slow things down.
I mean, sure, now we see titles in the original classics collection such as The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, or even Aladdin, and it makes total sense.
Yes, but you can count on how many titles in the Black Diamond Classics line. 7, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 21 titles. Yeah, there were 21 titles in the Classics line, what they call Black Diamond Classics line, from 1984 to 1994. Yeah, that lasted roughly a 10-year gap.
But at the time they were released on video, the movies were only a few months old, so Disney essentially began to classify literally every new Disney animation as a classic no matter what, without giving it the time to actually earn the status of a classic like the first entries into the collection. I know it seems like a petty complaint now, but just wait until later. 1994 saw the first time release of The Fox and the Hound, and was also the final entry into the Classics collection.
Yes, it was, like I said, the final entry in the Classics line, the Black Diamond Classics line marked the end of an era. I do have the Gold Classics line because I have the Gold Classic VHS. This was the only time I have.
However, a new collection was on its way that would amplify Disney's tedious release strategy even further.
Oh yes. I can't believe this. This is going back a long time. Say hello to the Masterpiece Collection.
Now, the first entry into the Masterpiece Collection makes total sense.
Yes, the first entry in the Masterpiece line is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Available this week for a limited time.
As up until then, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs had never been released on home video.
Yes, it has never been released on home video at all. There might be bootleg copies elsewhere on some... you might find it back in the 80s. You trying to remember back in the 80s when, Snow White was re-released in theaters. When people are going to try to get bootlegs of Snow White. There might be after numerous bootlegs floating around. Yeah, they came out on VHS for the first time. There might be bootlegs, some VHS and Betamax versions of Snow White. That would be, they're completely bootleg. So if you have to go, like the quality wasn't that good and all this stuff. That is just the problem is, the quality was so bad that was compared when it was recorded from a movie theater. It was just a no-brainer when you think Snow White made the first entry in the Masterpiece line. And right before the film's release on VHS, Snow White gave, they had some bootleg copies back in the 80s and early 90s when you get a VHS of Snow White. Go back to, what is this? I got an idea. Okay, let's go back to a little bit further. There was a VHS and Betamax release of Snow White because it came out in 1980. There was a TV special aired on HBO back in the in 1980. It was titled Snow White Live at Radio City Music Hall. It was like one of the better versions of, a better musical representation of a Disney animated movie. And yes, it was a stage show. It was taped at Radio City Music Hall. And it has a pretty good following, but it does not resembling it's kind of like a retelling of a 1937 movie, which kind of like the animated movie did not appear on VHS for the first time, but there was a live action stage show from Radio City Music Hall, long before, a decade before the Ninja Turtles Coming Out of Their Shells tour came out. And this was actually a big way to say, it says, here's a spectacular live version of Disney's unforgettable animated film classic, magically lifted from the motion picture screen and transformed into a thrilling, multi-dimensional stage show at the Radio City Music Hall. All the songs from the original are included, along with a brand new, never to be forgotten finale. Best of all, beautiful stage version is preserved happily ever after for your own home enjoyment. Yes, the show ran about 90 minutes, and it starred Mary Jo Sorrento, Richard Brown, and Anne Francine. Yeah, those are like one of the highlights of the show. If you want to see it, it's on YouTube. But yes, if you want to see the actual stage version of Snow White, it's on YouTube. But I always want to recommend watching this. But it's not even available on Disney Plus. It's unfortunately this version is not available on Disney Plus. But you could watch it on YouTube. But anyways.
So it was a pretty big deal. It was also the last of the so-called Disney Untouchables to be released on video, and went on to produce record-breaking sales. But once again, Disney began to re-release titles for the third, fourth, or fifth time on home video.
Oh yes, they have a title of what? Look, Dumbo had 5 reissues there. Robin Hood has only, what is this? Oh yes, he got only 5. They also, Robin Hood only got 5 re-releases, from the Black Diamond Classics, the Masterpiece Collection, to the Gold Classics Collection. And then, of course, there's going into... Wait, Alice in Wonderland only has 6 reissues, starting from 81, 82 to 2000. I can't believe it's under the Gold Classic line. They're like 6 of them. Alice in Wonderland has 6 of these re-releases of the titles.
Now, to play devil's advocate on the whole VHS re-release strategy...
Yes, they have Cinderella, they got 101 Dalmatians, you got Pinocchio in there.
One could argue that since the major drawback of VHS tapes were that they degrade over time, especially with repeat viewings.
That happens over time when they degraded. Yes, the tapes were degraded mostly over time, because what happened was mold. Remember the mold? Yeah, a lot of these are mold. They had to protect. They had to clean out the mold. Yeah, some people thought they were going to clean the mold to get rid of the mold and all the stuff from these tapes to make it look playable again. But sometimes it had some problems and also degrades the whole thing. The picture problems that you need a head cleaner to clean the heads. Well, there you get the idea.
These new Disney collections were a way to replace worn-down copies, but since they did almost exactly the same thing with the far less popular Laserdisc...
Yes, they had Laserdisc in like 1986 through 94. They had 3 of them. Dumbo had only 3 from 92, 91, and 95, and 81, 86, 91, and 94. They only have 4 of them. And of course, CED video disc only have 1. That's right, only have 1 CED release. There's also what they call Betamax of Alice in Wonderland. Betamax copies ran from like 81 to 86. That's 2 re-releases. And then only 1 copy was from 86 on Betamax. But that's a whole thing. Yeah, right.
Versions, which don't degrade over time, I think we all know the real reason.
Well... yeah, avoid Song of the South. We're not talking about Song of the South, I believe.
It also continued the rather presumptuous tradition of the previous series, in which literally every single new Disney animated film was automatically defined as a classic.
Yes, we know. A lot of these movies were great. Hercules, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Pocahontas, and Mulan all have new titles released on VHS under the Masterpiece line.
In this case, a masterpiece.
One of these things is not...
Yes, I know. Snow White, Little Mermaid, Hercules, and Bambi were on there.
Like the others.
Yet the collection also featured titles like The Black Cauldron, which Disney has infamously treated like the unwanted stepchild in...
Yes, it came out in 97. I think they never came out as a Black Diamond Classics, but Yeah, there were bootlegs of The Black Cauldron, can be found elsewhere on VHS or Betamax. If you have seen, these were all bootlegs. But anyways,
their Disney canon, even going so far as to pretend it never existed years later.
What was the first Disney animated feature to use CG? The Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah, that came out in the early 90s. I believe The Great Mouse Detective came out in the early 90s. I do have the VHS of them.
Have a strong password?
Ugh.
You'll forget it.
I hate this ad. Get me off of this. Alright. We're 2 hours in. Yeah, we only got 2 more. Looks like we're under 2 hours in the video right now. This is going to be very long. This one, seeing the rest of the video is going to be here. So, let's see if I can see what they left off. Stupid ads.
Once again, with each new release, consumers were incentivized to purchase these Disney masterpieces as soon as possible before they disappeared and went back into the Disney vault. Now I just gotta stress that I'm not exaggerating about the ridiculousness of this whole situation, as near the end of the classic series,
yeah, Disney's disappearing act tries to snap the classics before they're all gone. Walt Disney Home Video was program called The Disappearing Classics. It sounds like a neat bit of magic, a nitty bitty bit of magic, what they called My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, but it's a really trick and a trick that works. It's like the great and powerful Trixie. It gives you to buy copies of Disney Home Videos. Works like this. Disney released one of the classic animated films, says 101 Dalmatians, on home video. Then 6, 8, 10 months later, Disney announced 101 Dalmatians is disappearing. No more video copies will be produced. Buy them before they're all gone. This is like they do with physical media these days. Yeah, that's exactly what happened to 101 Dalmatians, and it released in on video last April. Next week, it will become Disappearing Classic. After March 31st, Disney will no longer fill orders for the 1961 film. It may re-release in 6 to 8, 10 years. This is not like the way they did.
Newspapers regularly posted timelines, countdowns, level of rarity, and strategies.
Oh, no big rush, long shots. Wait a second. They got to go back in some form of the home video market. Pinocchio, which was released in 1984 and pulled off the circulation in 1986, arrived on video stores this week. Copies should be pretendable for a couple of years. Jungle Book, the 1967 animated musical, was also the last movie that Walt ever produced, based on the Rudyard Kipling's book. Still available. It has not been replaced in Dumbo. The 1941 Elephant Tale has been put in the Disappearing Classics program. It is greatly available. Alice in Wonderland is available and in stock in many stores. It is not a moratorium. Sword in the Stone, it has never been taken off sale. It is readily available at video rental stores in mass merchants. Robin Hood was re-released last July and it's widely available. The Long Shot. I have a friend who found 6 copies of Peter Pan, the 1953 animated feature, at a grocery store. He brought them all. The tape has been on moratorium since April of 1991 and is extremely scarce. It was only at the grocery because they didn't know what they had. Bambi, the Disney's 1943 feature. Wait. Bambi doesn't come out in 1943. It was released in 1942, not 1943. But you can't count on Saludos Amigos, came out in 1943. Yeah, that's not Bambi that was not in 1943. It was for 1942. Saludos Amigos was for 1943. Okay. Bambi, Disney's 1942 feature, was taken off the market 3 years ago. It's a tough find. Cinderella, a Disney's 1950 version, and hasn't been out of print since 1989. It is virtually impossible to find. Nadine the Tramp is another tough find. It has been on the momentum since 1988. If you can find one, buy it. Sleeping Beauty has disappeared except for rental copies. Snow White, Disney's first full-length animated feature, has never been released on home video. But like I said, bootlegs can be found elsewhere online. And yes, there's actually bootlegs on right before they came out on VHS. Yes, there might be Betamax copies of the bootleg Snow White. Or you could watch the stage show from 1980. Yep, that came out on the actual format. Hurry, hurry! Hurry, hurry! Beauty and the Beast and 101 Dalmatians disappear next week, but they will be easy finds for at least 6 months. Fantasia, every hippie's favorite Disney cartoon and the second best-selling home video of all time, is on moratorium, but there are so many around, it is readily available. That situation won't last. Adventureland. If you are looking for a weekend adventure, try finding a copy of Little Mermaid, the 1981 big screen hit, which went back to the vault in April Fool's Day 1991. You probably won't find any copies for sale in stores. Check the flea markets, or garage sales, or thrift stores. The open market price is $100 and up. I have a friend whose girlfriend got into trouble because she's neglecting to pay her automobile tax. She was served as a warrant and taken to jail. I'll let you find and pick up the story. I called a lawyer to see what it would cost and get her out. I figured $200, $300. He said, "Get me a copy of The Little Mermaid. I'll get her off." She's now out of jail, and my friend no longer has his copy of The Little Mermaid. I started just to pay him the $200 maybe I should have. Do you know what this means?
For example, by 1996, second-hand copies of The Little Mermaid were selling for over $200, and that...
Wait, $200? Who the heck is... $100? Oh, easy. Little Mermaid costs $130? Bambi? Wait. Bambi? What the heck? They misspelled, they proofread Bambi. It's not Bambi, it's Bambi. Looks like the print they just proofread the title. They just look at this. There's a typo in the title of the movie. It's not Bambi, it's Bambi. The Little Mermaid Excellent Edition under $50. Little Mermaid original VHS $250, and $275 for Little Mermaid. Oh my goodness, this goes back a long way when they just priced at $250.
Not even counting the insane ahead of their time eBay-like scammers who had...
Oh my gosh, 800, 150,000, what the heck, 1,500, 350,000, wait, 3,500, $800. Oh yeah, if you go to the classified pages, oh my goodness, they just skyrocketed. Just scalpers. This is what you call these days scalpers. Yeah, they scalped up the price. Disney VHS tapes were complete scalpers. I mean, why do you want to buy a VHS tape of any Masterpiece Collection, Black Diamond Classics, and other titles? They're just scalpers. I mean, if you want to think it's scalping the prices, I think this is a terrible idea of why you want to do this. And now we're entering to the world of eBay. So let's take the magic of eBay and see what this is. Oh yes, they're cheap. Like theirs cost half the price, like $10, $14. They're any Disney movie. And look, the entire 8 Black Diamond Classics series. And guess how much they cost? A whopping $100. That gives it a grand total of $115.71. What is the heck is going on here? Yeah, they just, look at this. They scalped the prices to $100. You know, look how much they cost these days. Oh yeah, you could get cheaper. $21. Look at all these prices in here. And yeah, this is just going insane. Yeah, you could get these for another price, like $15. Little Mermaid, the original 1990 VHS, with this, what came with a Silk Touch throw, $60. Ugh, ridiculous. And yeah, you can get all these VHS tapes for like close to this cheaper price. Look, Beauty and the Beast with the throw. Well, the VHS box with the silk. What the heck? There's $59. What the hell? That's supposed to be fake. Oh, Roger Rabbit, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the original VHS release. They came out for like $20. And you know how much these prices were insane. You know, these are, if you want to go on eBay, there's plenty of Disney VHS tapes available. You can still get these on eBay, but those are just absolute treasures. You know, I have all the VHS tapes. I had it for years. Back in the day when I first bought these, yeah, I have Snow White. I got this years ago. And Spirit of Mickey, it's only about the price that we actually does that. Yeah, if you don't know, this is something really, really interesting. And yeah, $17. You can get it for, yeah, there's also the Black Diamond Classics tape of Bambi, which I do have one, but I'm not ordering it. There's also some other titles released on home video on back in the days when people are still collecting Disney tapes. You could go to thrift stores or flea markets or garage sales. You had to still, or even go to antique shops where you can go get these tapes. These are, and look, those are cartoon classics. Oh yeah, there's a public domain one, so that's not Disney. So I think this is a good idea, but I know these days I've been in the age of video collecting. Wait a second, they're bidding for like how much these tapes cost. $125. Whoa, that's a scalper. You know, all these like these are a huge amount of Disney VHS tapes cost like $125. That's another scalper right there. I mean, these are trying to scalp the prices here, but look, these are just, if you have a sealed copy, that's a very scalper. It's a lot of scalpers. Those prices are just way too high on eBay, but yeah, if you find these on eBay, just get the cheaper copies of if you can find all the Disney titles on VHS or Betamax. There's also a line, if you want to go to this section right there, there's a bunch of titles on Betamax. Yeah, you can still get those on Betamax for $24. There's a lot cheaper prices in there. They're not bad. So you can still get those on Betamax for, yeah, those are a huge lot of these. There's some titles right there. You can see there's the Three Caballeros. There's like, oh yes, there's a lot of copies over here. The DTV's Golden Oldies. Here's Pluto, which I do have it on VHS. There's also some of the limited gold edition tapes. This was what they called the Disney Dream Factory. These are part of the limited gold collection cartoon classics line. And there's also where is this? I cannot find anywhere on this one. Cartoon classics. And then there's also Disney's Fabulous 50s and the Three Caballeros, which I do have it on VHS, part of the Masterpiece collection. There's like 5 of these titles released there was no cases whatsoever. And then there's also, oh my gosh, 5 Betamax titles for a whopping $125. What a joke. Why you want to buy these for like $125? Oh wait, a Black Diamond Classics Betamax on $150? A Little Mermaid? No way. Get out of here. Wait, Fantasia on Betamax was also sealed for $250. No freaking way. There's no way on earth you get this. Oh, and this was also a Betamax copy of the the VHS tape? There was actually, oh yeah, it's a VHS tape, not a freaking Betamax tape, but That's one of them. Oh yeah, that's one. And I think these are some of the tapes I always wanted to get. This one, but oh, there's a one on. Here's the one on Betamax. It's one of the very first home video release of Pete's Dragon. Wait, it was like 105 minutes, but they just plastered it with 128 minutes with runtime. It's not a... Yeah, it doesn't look like it's a runtime of 125 minutes, but 105 minutes, but it's kind of a shorter film, but it's not like it's... It was not being edited for a home video release, but it's actually... Yeah, and this was one of the very first home video releases ever, but I have to see what the heck is going on here with these releases of all the stuff. I actually do have a Walt Disney Christmas from 1981. This is the first edition. There was no second. There was actually a second edition. I do have the second edition. There's also Summer Magic with Haley Mills from 1963, out on Betamax. And this is one from 1985. I actually had a VHS tape of this, but it does not have the cover for it. But I would like to get the Betamax one day. But this is one of those tapes that I think I used to have. But yeah, it has that Neon Mickey logo was just halfway through at the beginning of the tape. But it's not, it's missing. There's no FBI warning on the tape. But I wish I could get a better copy next time in the future. So I'm thinking about ordering that in the future. Maybe a Betamax copy I might get. And yeah, I always want to keep these on. I have to keep them, but these are just, yeah, if I want to find these on, if I want to find the Neon Mickey tapes, I would like to get these on Betamax, and these I got to keep them. But I'm not getting rid of these tapes because these are the ones I am keeping, these other tapes. Because just like I did with the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie, the original WCI home video title from the 1980, that's one I'm keeping. And those are good ones. I always been a Looney Tunes fan, and these are probably the very first home video Looney Tunes home video release on home video. It was made by WCI Home Video. Oh look, Winnie the Willows, starring plus Goofy and Donald Duck cartoons. Yes, you probably know, Winnie the Willows was originally part of the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Yeah, but that movie was from. And there's a lot of those stuff. It was re-released theatrically as a short film, as a separate short film. But they split into two separate parts, so that it was a featurette. I do have a copy of that somewhere. And plus some other ones. So, yeah, it looks like Fantasia's only like $200. That's a waste of money. And, yeah, look at this. There's even Puff the Magic Dragon was actually on Betamax, and it cost like $300. That's not a Disney film. It's only about $300. That's wasted. That's scalpers. Yeah, enough with the listings here on eBay. So, let's continue with this thing.
Truly hope no one fell for. So when The Little Mermaid was officially re-released on video for the Masterpiece Collection, after nearly 10 years in the Disney Vault, copies flew off the shelves, as was the case for almost every entry into this new series.
For a limited time, you can give your children memories they'll have forever. The special collector's edition of Walt Disney's timeless classic, Bambi. Enjoy it again for the very first time.
Yeah, it's a very first time, or what this is, 1989. Yes, it came out in 97, and yes, the voiceover you hear was done by Mark Elliott. You know, Mark Elliott was a DJ on, remember we started at, he started as a disc jockey on radio station CKLW in Windsor, Ontario in the 60s. He was briefly working at he went to do, in the 70s, he was at KHJ in the 70s. And then they later became voiceover for CBS during the early 80s. Then he became the iconic Disney voiceover named Mark Elliott. I mean, he was one of the best Disney voiceover artists, one of the best Disney voiceovers of all time, compared to Jack Wagner? We mean Jack Wagner or Mark Wagner? Yeah, Jack Wagner, who was the voiceover for all the Disney theme parks in the past. You know, that's a good one.
Limited time, enjoyed again for the very first time. Okay, Disney, you get 5 points for that one.
Yeah, 5 points.
The final videos in the Masterpiece Collection were Alice in Wonderland and Robin Hood in 1999.
Yeah, I know. They went on to re-release all this stuff. Like Alice in Wonderland and Robin Hood were kind of a reissue thing, but that was like a one final try on this re-release thing. But anyways.
And would also see the final Disney release on Laserdisc. However, soon another disc format would provide even more opportunities for Disney's re-release model.
The wait is over. For the first time ever, the timeless classics that generation after generation has come to love have found a new home. On Disney.
Fight AI.
It's frustrating. Ads. Oh, no. This is an annoying ad. I'm tired of these ads. Can we try it again?
The timeless classics that generation after generation has come to love have found a new home. On Disney DVD.
In 1999, Disney announced their plans to release 8 animated classics on Disney DVD.
Yeah, that's right. DVD has been taken over by storm. Following the dismantling the Laserdisc format after, well, it's like years since the late 90s, they abandoned Laserdisc. Probably Laserdisc has been around since 1978. When they introduced that to DVD, they got smaller. It's a smaller version of Laserdisc. Yeah, DVD was actually a more cheaper version of Laserdisc. I couldn't believe it. I was a DVD fan for life, because when they took over the VHS realm, yeah, DVD was introduced in 1997. That's because of they sounded much cleaner than VHS tapes. Then most conveniently, VHS was still in the full realm of better quality, but that's how they beat out VHS in the market, because of why they outsold VHS tapes. But that's another thing. But why do they ever do with collectors? If you want a VHS copy of that, because I always want people buying DVDs rather than VHS. Well, people bought DVD players at the time. It became, Sony introduced the format known as DVD. Toshiba, Sony, Philips all came to be when they introduced the format of DVD. But that things have changed. Back when back when VHS was the thing, they came out with, remember Super VHS, SVHS? In Japan, they call it DVHS, which was digital VHS, and WVHS that never took off on there. It was a short-lived format called WVHS, but that never really took off. But then everything changed, and then DVD took over. That's a good one.
A collection labeled as the limited issue series, but these were intentionally devoid of any real supplemental bonus features, which was honestly the...
Yes, those are kind of like this is what they call limited edition series. They call it Peter Pan, 101 Dalmatians, Hercules, Peter Pan, Jungle Book, Lion King 2, Lady and the Tramp, and Little Mermaid, and Mulan. Those are all the 9 titles were released as limited edition series. Well, that came out in 1999.
Biggest straw of the new format, aside from picture quality, this was done, at least in my opinion, as a test for consumers to see if they'd purchase the same movie on DVD more than once, only with new bonus features and the allure of a new collection, because less than 6 months later...
Yeah, the first Tuesday of each month, they're coming out with some other Disney movie that came out on that.
Disney did just that.
Presenting the Walt Disney Gold Classic Collection. Now a child might even imagine they can soar to the rescue, like in The Rescuers Down Under. Or learn the joy of giving, like in Robin Hood.
How can I ever thank you?
I only wish I could do more. Here.
You see, Disney, I assume, realized that DVDs don't wear down like VHS tapes, so the only way to entice consumers to purchase the exact same movie over and over was with new bonus material.
Yes, those will have new bonus materials that came out on there. Yes, I know VHS is actually, you know what the happen is. It's because of, I always want to agree with that. DVDs have bonus features. They're lack bonus features like this. They're called bare bones. You know, those special edition, Disney special limited edition DVD sets, they have first release every month, but lacking bonus features, well, that's what they're calling it, bare bones. Yeah, they were mostly bare bones this release because of that.
And a new collection. Oh, and each of these DVD releases also saw a new VHS re-release for the... I've lost count of how many times, so for the sake of my sanity...
Wait, you know, we've been repeating theirself. History repeats itself. Dumbo had 5, Robin Hood had 5, and once again, Alice in Wonderland had 6. That's kind of odd.
For sanity, we're only talking about Disney DVDs from here on out, because I cannot talk any more about VHS re-releases or I'm going to lose my mind.
Talking about the Twilight Zone, right? It's like you're entering another dimension. You know, this is what you expected to say. Well, let's take a trip to the Twilight Zone. You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but mind. A journey into a wondrous land of imagination. Next stop, the Twilight Zone. Okay, we're not going to be talking about the Twilight Zone in this video. Let's watch.
Who am I kidding? I've already lost it. Why did I even... To Disney's credit, what made this Gold Classic series especially unique is how, unlike previous issues, these were to be available for a full 2 years after release. But of course, nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, it's what Virginia Bell was saying. Make it like it was. Make it like it was. All right.
One of the great films of all time is going away for 10 years. Hurry and buy Snow White on video and DVD before it disappears.
Wait a second. I used to have it on DVD. I still have it on VHS. How can you go wrong with this one? Much better than the live action remake.
But it's not too late, because on January 31st, it's going back into the Disney Vault. Get it before it's gone.
Beginning with Snow White in 2001, the new plan was to release one of Disney's top 10 best-selling animated classics of all time each year for 10 years.
Well, each year for 10 years. I cannot believe this. We started off with the Diamond... Wait, it's not the Diamond Collection. It's going to be called the what we call the Diamond Collection? The Golden Collection sets. You know, the Golden Collections. Remember those? Remember the Golden Collections? That has a mainstay of every 9 years they put out each year. They put out every Disney animated movie as part of the Gold Classic series. Was this the Gold Classic series, which I'm talking about, the Golden Collection series. They ran from Snow White to Pinocchio.
This was later changed to 13 animated films over 8 years, so far less poetic. Each title within this new Platinum Collection
I mean, not the Golden Collection. I'm talking about...
was later changed to 13
the Platinum
films
Collection
over 8 years, so far less poetic.
Yes, this is what we call this, the Platinum Collection line. Yeah, it started with Snow White in 2001. Then, of course, 2002, 2003. Yeah. Beauty and the Beast in 2002. Lion King in 2003. Aladdin 2004. Bambi 2005. Yeah, Bambi and Cinderella in 2005. Lady and the Tramp and The Little Mermaid in 2006. Peter Pan and Jungle Book in 2007. 101 Dalmatians and Sleeping Beauty in 2008. And finally, 2009, Pinocchio.
Each title within this new Platinum Collection would be filled to the brim with never-before-seen documentaries, deleted scenes, plenty of bonus features, and your very first panic attack.
Yes, I always, might be, they have bonus features in there. Those of you who don't have any on DVD or anything anymore, you can watch it on YouTube. They have bonus features on there with DVD extras and all the stuff. If you want to see the whole documentary, it's on YouTube.
This Disney DVD is enhanced with Disney's Fast Play. Your movie and a selection of bonus features will begin automatically.
Yes, Fast Play. It introduced the Fast Play feature. It was back in, around this 2005, 2006. Yeah, like you have to automatically go to Fast Play to watch previews of upcoming films, like trailers and the actual ones that has the menu selections and things like that. You go to the main menu screen. With Fast Play, you have to watch the trailers. But it would take you to the main menu screen. But if you press the main menu, it will go straight to the menu screen. This is like you play a video game. You have to choose your options. They have some options like this. You have to choose whatever you want to choose. Fast Play is where you automatically watch the trailers. Just like a VHS tape, where they gave previews. Just like when you saw a movie theater right before the feature film, it would show trailers.
To bypass Fast Play, select the main menu button at any time. Fast Play will begin in a moment.
However, this time, as a way to replace the traditional theatrical re-release strategy prior to a home video release, thanks to the massive success of Fantasia 2000's IMAX run.
Oh yes, Fantasia 2000. It had an IMAX run on theaters. Yes, it's got some old Disney strategies and all this stuff. I could believe they do this right because long awaited the Fantasia 2000 release came out in like 2000, I believe. Yes, they have a bunch of other ones too, as you probably see here. The strategy presenting Fantasia 2000 only at IMAX theaters during its first 4 months of release, paying big dividends, although available in 54 screens throughout the U.S. and the animated film re-released on New Year's Day, grossed $7.3 million during its first 3 weekends, averaging about $45,000 per person per weekend. By contrast to It Little, the number one film of 2 of the 3 weekends took $37.2 million at nearly 3,000 screens, about $4,100 per screen, $4,100 per screen per weekend. Part of the reason with a huge gross, it's under or higher cost of IMAX tickets, which tend to be 40% of more executive than those regular theaters, even more responsible for the audience demand, which has resulted the frequent sellout and record crowds at every American IMAX where Fantasia and is showing, as well as at the 18 and other 21 IMAX venues around the world featuring the films. According to Disney, Fantasia 2000 is playing at Temple's IMAX Theater in the Arizona Mills Mall. IMAX recommends purchasing tickets per person several days prior to viewing the movie. Tickets and it can be purchased by phone at 480-745-4629. Disney has trumpeted the 75-minute Fantasia 2000 as the first feature-length movie produced for IMAX screens. It will be available in regular theaters after April 30th. That's a triumphant success of what they did after a long-awaited run on Fantasia.
Most of the classics were to receive a special IMAX presentation, many of which to feature a new sequence or musical number. The first was Beauty and the Beast, which featured the deleted song Human Again that was used in the Broadway musical. Next was The Lion King, featuring the morning
Lion King rose back to the IMAX
report. However, unlike Beauty and the Beast, this was not a deleted scene or song, but solely from the Broadway musical and made especially for the IMAX release. Next was to be Aladdin, in which
yes, the lion roars again, like MGM. Yes, let me tell you, the lion roars again, just like MGM. Disney restored the animated movie starts IMAX run. The King has returned in the big way. The Lion King is still the top-grossing animated movie 8 years after its initial release. Makes the large format debut at IMAX and other giant screens theaters on Wednesday. It's a family movie, said film's producer Don Hahn in a recent phone conversation from LA. The time of the year we're all looking for that togetherness experience, and The Lion King is one of the most beloved family films. The proof The Lion King earned $312 million domestically and $771 billion worldwide, according to The Hollywood Reporter. It has translated to 32 languages. The Lion King follows in the footsteps of Disney's Beauty and the Beast, which was re-released in IMAX theaters roughly in the same last year. The re-release of The Lion King is significant since it's one of Disney's premier properties, said Craig Gillay, the film editor of The Hollywood Reporter. But unlike Beauty and the Beast, no scenes were added in The Lion King. We debated that, said Han, referring to as the temptation of adding scenes. Essentially, we decided to leave it alone. We said, let's just do the restoration. So the colors are sharper and detailed, are more detailed, and the soundtrack has been remixed. The next Disney animated hit to get the IMAX treatment will be Aladdin, according to Han. The Lion King follows the exploit of the young lion prince Simba, voiced by Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Matthew Broderick, as he gets older, as he deals with the death of his father, the King Mufasa, done by James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader. You remember Darth Vader from Star Wars, and it's redundant to ascend it to the throne. Hunt said The Lion King is specially suited for IMAX, which boasts a 6-story high screen and 12,000-watt 6-track digital sound system because of the lush African settings. And The Lion King range will not end with the IMAX release. When Disney now gets a hit like one of these, and they're still pretty rare, to use it the way Indians use a buffalo, and Phil Kohler, a pop culture writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Okay, it's what do I say? Like I said in the top, the headline, Lion roars again like MGM. Okay, I know they have Lion roars again just like they do with MGM.
A 2-minute preview was featured in front of The Lion King. After that was to be The Little Mermaid, which by November of 2002 was in the process of being cleaned up for the release.
Wow.
Unfortunately, while Aladdin was already finished being remastered for IMAX by 2003, due to the poor box office performance of Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King.
Yeah, box office performance earned $18 million according to LF Examiner figures. The Lion King earned $12 million as February 2003. There seems to be something diminishing returns, said Hyder. This is like they used to do with the Star Wars special editions, the 1997 re-releases of the Star Wars original trilogy box set, was what they called the re-release special editions from the 90s. And that's right. Yeah, which kind of reminds me of the kind of like I've reverted to Star Wars special editions.
King, Disney not only abandoned the scheduled IMAX releases, but the long-held annual tradition of theatrical.
Yeah, it says R.I.P. Disney theatrical re-releases from 1944 to 2002. We want Disney to bring back these classic re-releases of animated movies to theaters. I wish if this is what happened during the pandemic or whatever it is, if Snow White bombed, they're going to re-release the animated classic rather than showing the live-action remake with Rachel Zegler. Well, that should have been done with re-releasing the animated classic.
Re-releases altogether. So, ironically, the fear of all those Disney executives 2 decades earlier finally became a reality. Disney classics had lost their value in the theatrical market. For now.
Yeah, then here's what you need to do. Bring back the theatrical re-releases of all the Disney animated movies to theaters. Because people get tired of watching the new film, the newer movies. Like, look at Mandalorian Grogu and some other movie that just bombed big time, that Disney just bombed. Why they considered as the wokeful era? Come on. Just re-release the movie in theaters.
Everything you know about DVD just got a whole lot better.
Hey.
Oh no, not again, not again.
Everything you know about DVD just got a whole lot better.
2006 would see the final Disney video release on VHS, as by this point, the rise in high-definition home entertainment had begun, and either HD...
Yeah, that's what they're saying, the final home video release of the final home video release on VHS, like The Little Mermaid, and then, Bambi 2 was also the final one released. There might be, they continued through the Disney Movie Club members, Disney was continuing to put it. They're not giving off the final VHS release. The last one has to be Cars from 2008. That is pretty odd. A very late VHS release, which was released through the Disney Movie Club as part of a club that you can buy those. They stopped doing Disney VHS tapes after Cars in 2008 when it was purchased from the Disney Movie Club. And yes, high definition HD DVDs debuted in the US. It was a train wreck. But yeah, the HD DVDs didn't last that long until Blu-ray started to appear.
By this point, the rise in high-definition home entertainment had begun, and either HD DVD or Blu-ray were to replace the VHS as the new side-by-side release with Disney Standard DVD. Though several live-action titles were released on Blu-ray, Disney held off on releasing any of their animated classics on either format until there was a clear winner. By 2008,
yeah, I know. HD DVD was a flop because they came out in the first place. But yeah, this is worse than if you don't. It was short-lived because they didn't last long. Then if you look back in the past, there was cartridge version. There was the VR 1000 videotape, which is the cartridge, which is actually the Quasar video cartridges, which is a videotape cartridge that looks like an 8-track tape. That was actually, remember those from I saw that way earlier in the video. We've been talking about the VR 1000 that came out in 1976. It was a flop, but it was considered as the worst video format. So they just abandoned it and replaced with VHS that Quasar manufactured, and then Panasonic did. Yeah, HD DVD. Then remember the good old CED video disc? That was a terrible idea. That the CED video disc was an absolute disaster. So HD DVD was short-lived.
Clear HD lost the battle, so after finishing up the Platinum series with a few Blu-ray versions in 2009, Disney began a new series called the Diamond Collection.
Oh yes, the Diamond Collection.
After so many releases and proof that these classics would inevitably see another re-release in the near future, Disney couldn't possibly think consumers would fall for
The Jungle Book Diamond Edition, only for a limited time.
Oh yes.
Come on. The company continued to use the Disney Vault strategy, but was also simultaneously releasing the same animated films on iTunes. So what the...
Yeah, Disney used to sell $50 million of movies to iTunes since... Wait, CEO Bob Iger says? Well, they trying to stop doing this because back in... what year was this from? 2006. Yeah, when Bob Iger was CEO at the time, when he came in after like 20 years as CEO of the company. Yeah, it went from best to worse. I think that's an epiphany for that. Yeah, it's like they sold 125 digital copies of films from Apple's iTunes store, but that was before the other ones became the second one most popular digital store is Amazon Prime Video. I buy movies from Amazon Prime Video. This is why I'm in there. So, yeah, Amazon Prime Video is the one place you can buy movies, every Disney movie on digital now. So, everything. So, we're talking about this. Maybe in the later one, we'll have to talk about Disney Plus when we get to this shortly.
Heck, Disney. And do you know how frustrating it is to track down an out-of-print copy of Sleeping Beauty for a very specific bonus feature, only to find out I had the wrong out-of-print version and had to go to eBay to find an even earlier out-of-print version? It's madness. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these Mickey face with the color bars. Oh, yeah. That's just what you're going to do. You had to find a misplaced copy of any Disney movie, or you can find DVD, VHS tapes with the wrong title on it. Well, yeah, you have to do is avoid. So that's on you.
In 2011, Disney gave animated films theatrical re-releases another go, but with a new strategy: 3D conversions. The first was The Lion King, followed by Beauty and the Beast in 2000.
Yeah, these titles were short-lived because it says Lion King 3D and Beauty and the Beast 3D. These were all 3D DVD Blu-ray. These are part of a Blu-ray 3D titles. That never came to be because people have television sets that use 3D glasses. Yeah, it's like, because going back to the 50s though, yeah, 3D movies became more harder to watch back in the, yeah, it became a fad back in the 1950s when 3D movies became a fad. I mean, Bugs Bunny had Lumberjack Rabbit. That was the one cartoon that was done in 3D. And yes, all these cartoons were made in 3D. There's Popeye and the Ace of Space, Boo Moon with Casper the Ghost, and Lumberjack Rabbit with Bugs Bunny. All three of these cartoons were done in 3D. With the exception of these two classic Disney shorts like Melody in 3D and Working for Peanuts with Donald Duck and Chip and Dale. That's also 3D.
12. Next was to be The Little Mermaid in 2013.
Yeah,
but
that
in
was
a very
3D.
Bizarre case of deja vu, the nationwide event was canceled outside of a brief release at the El Capitan Theater.
Yeah, it was. The 3D release of them was completely canceled after that, so they ended up releasing it as a Blu-ray, as a 3D Blu-ray instead.
And Disney abandoned the classic animated film re-release strategy once again. That is until they realized they could simply remake the animated films and release them into theaters under the disguise of live-action adaptation.
Yeah, but even count on The Little Mermaid. A lot of those live-action remakes were very successful. The first one has to be 101 Dalmatians, Alice in Wonderland, Christopher Robin, Maleficent. That's also some adaptations in there. Lion King, Mufasa the Lion King, Dumbo, Aladdin, Cinderella, Jungle Book, Beauty and the Beast. There was even another live-action version of that back in the 90s. And of course, there's one thing missing. The Little Mermaid, well, was okay. It was fine. And then, of course, there was Snow White with Rachel Zegler. That's terrible. That's absolutely bad. That's a train wreck of a live-action remake. Yeah, that Disney ruined Snow White with Rachel Zegler. That's the movie that ruined it. That became a live-action remake. It was also worse. And then so is Pinocchio with the live-action version. That's just garbage. Even compared to Snow White with Rachel Zegler, that's garbage too. I never watched the movie. It was absolute garbage. I don't know what the heck is going on with those too many politics or something. Something to do with politics and all these weird stuff in there. It's just a train wreck. But there's also a live action remake of Lilo and Stitch. That was actually, I haven't watched that one yet, but I haven't seen the Snow White live action remake yet, but we'll have to give that a go. I don't understand what is going on. I had no idea who is going to watch this movie. Nobody's watching to see Snow White, the live action remake with Rachel Zegler. That sucked. And what about Moana, the live action remake? I know, yeah, the trailer looks pretty bad, but who knows when it comes out. I know there might be live action remakes. I haven't seen anything since then. Poorly done. I don't know why. These are unnecessary live action remakes. Are just absolutely bad. So even adaptations, they ruined it. Anyway.
Okay, so that's just my own conspiracy theory, but it makes total sense. After the Diamond Collection finished in 2015 came the Signature Collection, which seemed to finally...
Oh yes, the Diamond. Yes, after a brief run of these.
Them into theaters under the disguise of live action.
I don't know anything else.
Okay, so that's just my own conspiracy theory,
right.
But it makes total sense.
Oh.
After the Diamond Collection finished in 2015 came the Signature Collection.
Yes, how many Diamond collections do we get? Oh, the Signature collections. We also came out with the. Oh yes, there are also Diamond collections after they ended its run. There are Signature collections like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 13 of them. Yeah, 13 Signature collections were released in 20. Were released at there. That was one of the final releases there. There's also the remember the Signature collection that's going to go back a little further than that. That's like 13 of these films were released as part of the Signature Collection. It's one of the final edition of the series.
Which seemed to finally at long last abandon the Disney Vault gimmick, with the focus of digital being the primary incentive. So what's next for Disney Home Video? Well, with the release of their streaming service Disney Plus, the Signature Collection may very well be the final collection of the physical releases. But I will say, all jokes aside, as someone who truly appreciates the documentaries, interviews, and rare behind-the-scenes footage featured on these past releases, as convoluted as it can and has been across all of these collections, it'll be a true shame if the new digital age means the end of these incredible glimpses into the makings of our favorite Disney animated films. So here's to the best marketing scheme, concept, in home video entertainment history. As always, thank you all so...
I know. Let's end this video right there. I really want to say this to the bottom of my thing. I really don't understand what the heck is going on. Yes, I know. Disney Plus is only the thing, if you want to, people are going to go out and buy one of those physical media titles. If you want to get this thing, just go right ahead and just go on eBay. If you want to find a digital copy of these, here's your best hope. I highly recommend Amazon Prime Video. Amazon Prime Video is one of the most... I always enjoy watching these, getting these through Prime Video. There's a bunch of other titles that released available on any digital form, including the one I got it recently. It's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And the other one I think I recently picked up is 9 to 5. And that was okay. I haven't seen 9 to 5 in years. And that's also 20th Century. That's part of Disney. I think there might be some Disney reference in there. So, yeah. Go watch yourself. And yes, do us a favor. Go watch any of these films. You could buy these on digital. Digital is the only thing you can buy rather than buying VHS, DVDs, and so on, Betamax, whatever. You can still always want to get these stuff on there. And it's definitely your best hope is you either buy physical or you can buy digital. So I have to make it's on me. So it's on me. Look at this. Little Mermaid on, it looks like it costs $4. Oh, yeah, $5. That's cheap. You could, it's in the deals. But you can get like $4.99 or less. You can get Tarzan, The Little Mermaid, Rescuers Down Under, Lady and the Tramp 2, The Aristocats, Pocahontas, Angels and a bunch of other Disney titles released on there. There's some Shirley Temple film, a little bit of Shirley Temple movies on the deal section. There's Carousel. There's Return of Jafar, and there's a bunch of old 20th century content that's also in there. There's a bunch, those also Shirley Temple movies. These are under 20th century. It's under Disney. Then there's actually a Big Red. There's some other Disney live action ones. And of course, you get a big deal. The Day the Earth Blew Up. That's not even Disney. It's actually Looney Tunes. And there's also a couple of other titles, I think, from various studios. And yes, there's also The Princess Diaries. There's even some Disney animated movies. There's also a bunch of them. So there's Lady and the Tramp. I think it's a good idea to have enough of these streaming stuff. Just forget Disney Plus. Or here's a better option. Or you can go to Disney Plus and you have to... I can't go to Disney Plus right now because I know I had to log in and get an error. So, I appreciate this thing. So it's definitely what it deserves to be. Alice in Wonderland, or it might come out on Blu-ray. It was announced in May for its release. So I'm not buying. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to buy this movie, anyways. So I think physical media is completely Disney physical media format is definitely coming to a close. It's coming to a halt now after 45 years. I don't know what's going to happen to Disney these days with these home video distributors. 1,000 due to a layoff that happened earlier this past weekend, or this week, earlier this past week. Or maybe Dave Lee has mentioned it in his video, on X, saying that we reached out to my contracts at Disney Home Entertainment and confirmed reports that the entire team, including long-term execs, was laid off. That was this past week. We can only guess the division handling the DVD Blu-ray releases has been shuttered for good. More updates, I can learn more. And there's also, this is how you can remember the old Walt Disney Home Video name on this thing. But let's take a look at the articles has been saying. Look at the comments he had done. Oh, that's... And we gotta take a look at this saying. And thank him for the team for amazing timeless work. Such pressure from the underwhelming continued support of myself. Oh yeah, it's just like the original report. And look at this. Could they work for someone else for DVD, Blu-ray distribution, streaming is the focus now, has been for a while. But people still buy physical media. Blu-ray only recently overtook DVD sales, by the way. Those people tend not to pay the upper. But this is what they do. Sony handles their manufacturing distribution, and it would make sense to expand the partnership to give them full control of their physical. It would be a groundbreaking deal through Disney as an iron fist for their library. Sony does handle this, now handles the distribution, but not Disney. They don't do this anymore because Disney Physical goes away altogether, and then Sony takes over completely. Sony, handles the distribution. The Spider-Man company, handles distribution for manufacturing, pressing. Disney team is behind the production of the disc. Yes, these are physical media, but they're not dying anyway. But this is what he has to say about the whole physical media landscape. Is just kind of on its last legs. The Disney physical media company has been down in its last legs because of what they did. It's very sad to see the company go, but after all these years, it's 45 years. It's been a long, long time since they announced that they're shuttering its home entertainment. Disney has shutting down its home entertainment division, and of course, there's actually a couple of things we know. It's the end of an era, but after 45 plus years, we know this company has been it went from the rise and fall of the Walt Disney Home Video. It's becoming, it's just, I know some company has been doing this for a long, long time. I don't know how long it's been taking. Is because Disney has becoming more of an actual paid a key role of the home video distribution realm. So, speaking of which, yes, I know after we finished the run back in 2020, when Yesterworld did a video on Yesterworld Entertainment did a video in-depthing the history of Walt Disney Home Video and its Disney Vault. They brought it back around in 2023. Back in 2024, back in 2023, this is where we're missing out. After they abruptly ending the video. In 2023, Disney has been releasing titles on Blu-ray as part of the Disney 100 series. They include these films: 101 Dalmatians, Aristocats, Beauty and the Beast, Encanto, Frozen, Frozen 2, Jungle Book, Lady and the Tramp, Little Mermaid, Mickey and Minnie 10 classic shorts. That's actually, he has all the 10 classic shorts, Volume 1, Moana, Robin Hood, Sleeping Beauty, Tangled, Toy Story, Zootopia, and Wreck-It Ralph. They never had a Volume 2 somewhere because, those are 17 titles released on home video, but it has not really been lasted. These Blu-ray sets, these I do not own, but these were part of the Disney 100 series. And yeah, they came out on Blu-ray every month to commemorate Disney's 100th anniversary. And that's just the way the story goes. Then came these other titles like The Lion King, Cinderella, Aladdin, and more, and some other ones. Yeah, those other three releases that were part of that. Also part of the Disney 100 line. There's also Volume 2 of Mickey and Friends, 10 classic shorts. These are Volume 2. These are all 10 other cartoon shorts that was made. There's also a Disney 100 release of Snow White that came out. This is also on Blue as a limited edition collector's steelbook. And then there's Alice in Wonderland, also part of the Disney 100 series. And yeah, this also comes out in May, but it's got I don't know how many re-releases are there. And finally, around late 2020, November 2020, back in November 2023, they came out with a collector's edition. This is a limited edition set they released for, $1,500. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. I don't know why they get too expensive. That is scalping the prices. I don't know why you can buy $15 for each movie and you get a whopping $1,500. This is just ridiculous. They had a massive box set of all the Disney movies that were released back in... Yeah, this is from Reddit. I think it says to release the 100th anniversary Blu-ray set with 100 animated films for $1,500. That's wasted money. You know, this goes back to like many years back when they just did... Well, and this is what the Wrap has to say. It's just, oh my gosh. This is just absolutely bad. I'm not really want to buy the... Yeah, a lot of people think, I'm not buying a collector's set. This is a massive set for like $1,500. I mean, what in the heck is going on here? I mean, what in the world happened? I just want to listen to that article from the Wrap and see what this is. Wait a second. I just have to listen to the audio of this thing. It's... Oh no, I don't want to go into the 14-day trial run. I don't want that to happen. I'm just reading the full article. And to be fair... Yeah, these will look like this. 100 Disney Pixar films, and even, yes, all the 100 animated movies from Disney and Pixar. It goes up from back in November. It came out in November 2023. $1,500. It's a waste of money. These are kind of like it was a limited edition with just limited copies, like 10,000 copies were made. I don't know what is going on with this. These are all the selected titles that were previously released on Blu-ray. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Like 100 movies for like $1,500 is a waste of money. I'm not going to buy a collector's set. No way. Do I buy this for $1,500? No. The answer is no. Don't even bother buying. Avoid while you can. And stop. Don't even waste your money to buy this set. This is ridiculous. I'm sticking to VHS tapes for now. I really don't understand why. And of course, that is just bad. I mean, I'm really disappointed that this content has not... This is a DVD. Yes, all the titles, I do have it on VHS. Most I do not have, but if I soon, I will get it on digital. Man, I really don't understand what the heck is going on. Well, anyways, that's it. That is it. We made it to like 3 hours. Yeah, it's an extremely long video. I always wanted to say this is the longest video ever made, and this is the first time I always want to experience the This video is 3 hours long. Man, it gives you a little in-depth of the history of Walt Disney Home Video. And like I said at the top of the show, yeah, only 1,000. This is due to a 1,000 layoffs. They shut down the Disney Home Video division. Yes, it's been kind of a long ride, 3 hours, and yeah, this is close to 3 hours. And you know what? Yeah, let's gonna end this video with that because this is a very long video, and I had to say this is, well, it's a well-documented video because after 3 hours of doing this, of rambling and doing some commentaries on the history of Walt Disney Home Video and all the stuff. And I know this is a very good reacting video to make. It's going to take some time. I would say this is a video that I want to say that this is definitely a sad way to end the Walt Disney Home Video canon run between. It's been a long run of home video releases that was put out by Disney from 1980 through 2026. And I say it's been a pretty long ride. And I have all my Disney VHS clips. But what I'm going to do with it, I'm not getting rid of any Disney VHS tapes. No way. I'm keeping it. This is why I am keeping my original VHS tapes of all the Disney titles that I have here. It's basically what I always want to go back and rewatch it again. You know, I always want to buy digital copies. If I want to buy it on digital, that's a pretty good thing. I say this is a huge thank you to everybody who has been done. And thanks to Yesterworld Entertainment for putting that video back like 6 years ago when he did a video on the history of Walt Disney Home Video and the Disney Vault. And I think that's a best way to have to say this is the end. I always want to say it's like Disney VHS tapes has been a great ride. It's been a very good run. I hope in another video we'll talk about reacting the history of the Walt Disney Home Video logos. That I will be doing that in a future video. And I had to say this is like, well, it's the end of the road for Disney Home Video and Walt Disney Home Video and all this the companies. We've been doing this for like 46 years. This is when they started back in 1980 and then ended in like 2026. Sony now handles the distribution of physical titles for all the Disney titles released on physical media. But physical media is not going anywhere. You could still, there will be more Disney movies to be released under Sony, but this is just going to be more of a thing. I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Disney isn't going anywhere with physical media. Physical media is not going anywhere, but hopefully they will continue, but we'll have to do that in like at some points sooner or later. And I had to say it's been like 46 years. It's been one hell of a run. I mean, we go back in some VHS tapes and collecting and all the stuff has been included there. They're just probably the best way to save the tapes, save the Disney VHS tapes. And I hope you can tell to keep this in this collection. That's why I am saving my Disney VHS collections there. So I don't want to get decayed over time, or it might be deteriorated. It's not going to get deteriorated over time, and it's not going to go to mold. If they start to mold as they age, you should get like maybe VHS's life, so you can clean and get rid of the mold, and then put it somewhere, and it'll restore it. You can watch it on the VCR, or you can put it on there. I miss those days when you pop in the VHS tape on a VCR. You can put it in there and enjoy watching them. I miss the trailers. I'm going to miss any bumpers and things. This was a pretty good ride for me. I had to say it's very well done. It's 3 hours long. I think it's way over 3 hours. It's too long to make this video as I am making this, but I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed, leave a comment below, like and subscribe. Man, I will catch you later in the next video. We'll be doing something else. So hope you'll enjoy that. Thanks, this is Chris. And this is Chris once again. It's been a long run. I think 3 hours is enough for me. I'm tired. I have to go to bed. I got to work tomorrow. So I'll catch you later. Bye now.